Hello everyone, it is your host Sensei Inc. I am here with a very, very special episode of Anime Chat and Rap. It is episode 5, but as you can see from all of my wonderful people that are here in the panel today, this is a all One Piece episode. We will be talking about everything One Piece. So, if you're not a One Piece fan and you are going to read One Piece or watch One Piece at some point, this may not be for you. I don't want to spoil you. There will be spoilers in this. Before we get started, in the description box will be my Discord. Make sure you guys check that out. Join the family, be a part of the community. Also, a link to my previous video will be there as well. Check that out as well. Now I will let all of these guys, these lovely gentlemen, introduce themselves.
Well, hello everyone, JD Legend here. Thanks for having me on, Sin, and happy to be on this One Piece panel.
Ohio gozaimasu. I'm Commodore Les. I talk about anime manga. You'll forget about me after this. Yeah, screwed up.
Nice job, Les.
Nice kill.
I'm Dritz. What's up?
Vinland Ragnar, Valhalla Boys Extraordinaire CEO.
Wait, your name's Ragnar?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
the
your
intro.
real
I thought
name
they were
is
because like my One Piece D&D character is Ragnar, and we posted that, so I thought you guys were talking to me. Hello, everybody. I'm Briggs, also known as Ragnar sometimes.
Damn.
Briggs from AllDayAnime.
I'm gonna issue
Forget
a
Ragnar, forget
assist,
it.
Briggs.
Just call him Vinland.
Nah. We gonna call me Ragnar, bro. We
Okay, Vinland.
This is Joy Boy Theories. I'm not doing my intro once again.
Hi there, you two. Joy Boy here.
Oh God, please don't. Please stop. It hurts.
You got the first word wrong, bro.
I did?
It's not hi. It's hey YouTube.
Hey, YouTube. Commodore
Right.
Lads here.
Why am I subjected to this? Do I deserve this?
Now that you have read it, let's begin.
I will be spoiling you.
Hi, I'm GrandLineReview, One Piece enthusiast and awkward Australian man.
I had this weird feeling you were from Wales. I don't know why.
Yeah, same.
Wales, wow.
Yeah, I think you had it in your Twitter or
I like
something. I don't know.
Wales.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh, New South Wales, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's in. Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
All right.
The land
That's a
of
plot
the
twist.
unknown as well.
well, isn't that because the UK they colonized Australia?
Correct.
Okay.
In
Yeah,
fact, my
damn.
ancestors were horse thieves, I believe.
This man,
Yo,
Ragnar.
Vinland.
Wait. You said your ancestors were.
No, thieves.
Oh.
Australia was colonized by.
They were
Yo,
effectively.
Vinland knows the history, damn.
No,
This
stop.
man Ragnar out here with the wiki links, man.
For real.
Stop.
Yo, he knows his history, damn.
Oh God, he do every video, bro.
You're the wiki link guy.
No. All right, guys. So just to start off, since we are in Wano currently, I just want to talk about Wano briefly before I get to the more general One Piece questions. What are your guys' just like overall thoughts on Wano so far? Like, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it?
Well, I'm looking at my comment section right now, right? Just responded while we're streaming, and somebody asked me, "This is taking forever. How many chapters do you think before the act ends?"
I mean, we were like, what, 70?
We should be near 74, 75 chapters.
Yeah, so this is going to be at least over 100. So I think this will be around like maybe 1020, like around that range. I could see it ending just because
Wano will be 1,000 to 20
Yeah,
chapters.
I think
I think-
1,000.
I
I
think
think
it could be,
1,000. Yeah, I think 1,000 has such significance because I'm actually working on a video about like how chapter 1 relates to chapter 100 and then chapter 1,000, right?
End
Like,
of Act
I
3.
don't know if
chapter
Oda
1,000.
yeah, right. Like, something is going to happen, I think, because the thing is, Monkey D. Dragon. I think he first appeared in chapter 100,
Yeah.
right? And so I think Oda did that for a reason, right? What do you want to do for chapter 100? And so for chapter 1,000, it's going to be something I think just as
monumental.
dramatic,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
Roger gives a speech in chapter 1 that shapes the stories and defines it, right?
Yeah. Oda,
Shanks closes up the story with Luffy as well, but Shanks is like a messenger. And then you have chapter 100, Dragon gives that speech about Destiny of the Age, whatever, related to Roger as well. And then chapter 1,000, maybe we'll get something similar. I don't
yeah,
know.
Oda loves his numbers a lot. When you actually go look at it, it's like every single, the 50 mark, the 100 mark, it's always something cool, like almost always. Or it's some transitional chapter or something.
Yeah,
like
almost always. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
so-
mediocre.
Yeah, so I mean, even if it's a detriment, he'll make something happen on that chapter for sure. But anyway, the question was our thoughts about Wano, what we're liking about it.
Yeah, let's talk about Wano just briefly, just to get it out of the way, because I feel like we talk about Wano all the time. So I just
Wano is really complicated right now, I would say. That's like it's really cool. There's a lot of things going on, but at this point, it's you still don't know. We're about 70 chapters or so through it, and you still don't have a great feel about how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, because things have been like boiling like a kettle, and at some points it feels like it's about to like finally explode, and then it starts to sizzle down after. You don't know like which end you're gonna get of the whole spectrum. So like, especially where we are right now in Act 3, you feel like we should be getting into the fights, but even then it's still like building up, which it shouldn't really be the case right now. But
it's actually insane how much build up there's been, and I'm just waiting for it to pay off at this point. Like something big, like it's gonna blow up eventually when you have Big Mom, Yonko, Big Mom, Kaido, Luffy, Kid, Law. You got all these powers all in one place. Yamato appeared in the last chapter. Like Marco appeared a couple chapters ago. Like shit's gonna go down. It's gonna be crazy. I hope it ends up being good and it ends up paying off all this build up. A lot of people don't love the backstory with Odin for some reason. I'm a big fan. I think it really helps flesh out the world when you have all that stuff going on with Whitebeard and Goldie Rogers' crew and stuff.
I think upon a reread, it's definitely going to feel a lot better. I think reading it weekly might have been a problem. And I think rereading the whole thing in totality, with just knowing the general context, because I know that Brago did that for one of his videos, and he said that rereading it made it even better for him.
That happens with pretty much every long arc with One Piece, with Whole Cake and Dressrosa. I remember how many years did Dressrosa take? People were complaining throughout these
I wasn't even like a part of the community back then. I didn't join until Whole Cake Island, right? So like I was reading One Piece all on my own, and then I only started watching like One Piece YouTubers like King of Lightning and Rogers Base around, I think, Gear 4th, right? And Kaido's appearance, right? All those videos that blew up on YouTube because of the reactions and stuff. And so the experience is, I know people have said this before, is entirely different when you read it on your own. And I didn't have the same criticisms as to, oh, this is so long, because I read it all in like one sitting, just like, binge read it, versus having to wait weekly, and it's the same thing being repeated. You didn't really get that same sense, so I feel like it might be different.
Yeah, I mean, with Dressrosa is weird because like I finished like Punk Hazard, like when you catch up, and then it's like you get Dressrosa like weekly, you experience that for the first time, and then it's like you don't understand like how much is really coming out of it, even though the arc wasn't intended to be that long. Oh, it had the health issues, the breaks going on and stuff. So you start to really truly feel that, I think, come Whole Cake Island, because Zoe being like 20 something chapters, and then after you start to really feel the fatigue of getting a 70 chapter arc, and now currently being in another 70 chapter plus arc. So you start to really feel that. But I think for a lot of people that really catch up at the first time, it's just because they're so into the experience, they don't finally start to come back down to earth and realize like, damn, this actually is a process to get through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're approaching the end game. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I agree 100%. I came in after Ragnar, actually. Like I didn't like catch up to One Piece until like mid Wano. Like I was like right in the middle of the flashback when I caught up. So like my experience for One Piece in general was just completely different. So like once I caught up and I seen like a lot of people have complaints about like Dressrosa, stuff like that, I was confused by it because I didn't understand like why are they upset, like why do people say like have all these critiques, and like it's a completely different experience when you're binging. Like it's completely different than reading week to week. I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's a product of expectations, really. Like when you're reading Dressrosa weekly, especially near the middle of the arc, like chapter, I think it was like 760, right? You have Doflamingo's flashback and Law vs. Doflamingo, and you kind of get the anticipation, the expectation, okay, we're close to this being done. And then it's 30 chapters later and it's done, but when you're reading it, you have no idea. Right, so that expectation is, okay, we're about to see something really, really cool, and then it starts dragging out. And then I just think that the weekly expectations that start to build really exacerbate that feeling. And a lot of people get deluded by it, I think, a little bit, myself included.
For sure. Dritz, I ain't heard from you in a while, buddy. How you feeling about Wano, man?
Oh boy. I'm not gonna,
great thoughts, Dritz. Okay.
Yeah, not gonna go into detail trying to vibe, but it's fairly known that I do not enjoy Wano, put it lightly.
Ooh, hiss.
On a scale from 1 to 10.
Well, I think that's actually one of the questions though that someone will be asking.
Yeah, we're gonna have that discussion later. JD
Sounds
Legend.
Like you have inside information.
Just a tad. Not too much. Dritz is my favorite Caucasian, so
Oh, I see how it is. Right.
I'll make my way up the list soon.
JD Legend, JD brother. Let me hear how you hear about. Let me hear what you feel about Wano, man.
So for me, Wano is kind of a mixed bag. There are portions of Wano that I really like. A lot of people that I talked to didn't really feel much for Yasue at all, and I actually liked Yasue quite a bit, actually. And I liked his role in the story. I liked what he did for the Scabbers, and I think his character actually saved some patience for me in regards to the Scabbers, because he was the one who really put them on the right path. But overall, overall, I've kind of just been in a wait and see kind of mood, but there are some things in Wano that I just haven't enjoyed. And in particular, I remember AllDayAnime said he liked the flashback. For me, I did not like the flashback. And I think the only part of the flashback that I truly enjoyed was the Roger Whitebeard stuff and kind of just the going into the world itself and seeing where Roger and Whitebeard went. I thought that was really nice. But overall, I think one, and this is all like you can be a prisoner of your expectations. So my expectations was to get a lot more from the Scabbards and a lot more of their character from these flashbacks. And I feel like I got little to nothing in regards to any of the characters. And I think one of the things that I dislike the most, and again, this can just be me being picky, but this is something I really wanted to see. I think Ashura Doji versus Odin, I think that could have been a very, very nice way to characterize Ashura Doji and Odin together, and it could have been a good fight for us to have in Wano. But I guess Oda's saving all these fights for, you know, the final battle, of course. But there's still some good stuff that I really did like, and then there's stuff that I just did not like at all. The Big Mom stuff is a little weird too. So overall, it's been a mixed bag for me. I'm waiting to see how it ends and how all the buildup is culminated into one giant explosive climax. Pause. Yes.
No pause.
Play on it.
Press play.
Grand Line, the muscly man himself. How do you feel about Wano?
Yeah. Well, I really like what JD said about not being a prisoner of your expectations, because my strategy going through Wano has been to have no expectations, primarily because as someone who lived through the mega arcs of Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island, I'm really used to that sort of fatigue, and knowing that Wano is going to be, I think, undisputedly the longest arc in One Piece thus far, I think you just have to kind of go into it weekly and just accept it for what it is. So I'm enjoying it as a result of that.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing, Grand Line. We're in the same boat here. For lack of a better word, and people don't like this statement, but I've been turning my brain off, man, sometimes when I read Wano. And it's just, and not in the sense of like I have to turn my brain off for it to be good for me. It's just in the sense of turning my expectations off, like you were alluding to. Like, it's just, for me, it's just been the better way for me to enjoy it. And you know, I haven't had any like huge issues because I've been doing it like that. Like, and I feel like some people now, I won't say that I don't ever critically like analyze like One Piece, because then I'd just be lying to myself when I do make, you know, whether it's theory videos or, you know, discussion videos or whatever the case may be. I am critical, but for the most part, just on my initial read when the chapter comes out, I just try to turn my expectations down a bit so I can enjoy it, man. And you know, it's awesome to enjoy it before I have to dig into it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it as well.
I think your first read through should always be as a fan and not as a content creator. Otherwise, like you're not going to enjoy the media as much.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
that's exactly
being
what
a critic, man. It just doesn't hit the same way being a critic, man. After the fact, definitely, but you got to learn to be a fan first before you start critiquing your own stuff. Otherwise, we're a fan at the beginning. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's something good to be gained by just reading patiently, right? I think that a big part of a lot of people's frustrations is like, this is supposed to be the Yonko saga, and all the tension is going up, and all the big names are here, and we're expecting, you know, I mean, we didn't even know what we were expecting going into Wano, but we assumed it was going to be, you know, it's like, well, we're going into Wano and then fighting Kaido and all it's about to break loose, and instead we're focusing a lot on the people of Wano and a lot of things that we weren't even considering before. So you know, it leads to impatience. But if you go back into that mindset of like early One Piece, where it's like, well, this shit isn't going to end for 50 years, it changes your view of what's going on.
I think it's different nowadays because we are approaching the end game to some extent. So I think the arcs are going to have to be bigger and grander, and they're going to have to take so much more time. So I think the community needs to get used to like not judging things off an individual chapter and just like let it play out, you know?
Yeah, I mean even
they
with
haven't
young
gotten used to it in 20 years, so they're probably not going to get used to it now.
I mean, there's a lot of new fans coming to the community, right? Like even a lot of you guys, like I've been reading One Piece for over a decade now, but a lot of you guys came in after Dressrosa, which is crazy. It's good to hear though.
Well, I mean, I've been reading it before, and I just came into the community. Like,
I'm new to the community.
Like I had no idea that people made, you know, anime One Piece videos while I was living in Pittsburgh. When I moved to Jersey, though, is when I started to realize that and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm both. I'm new to One Piece and new to the community. Like when I caught up, I think it was like January, maybe of this year, something like that. Maybe December of last year. Like
Very new.
Yeah, so I'm like very new, but it's like, it was funny because, and I've told the story 1,000 times, but I don't think I've ever told it on my channel. But I was one of those people that was just like, oh, I'm never reading that, man. My brother, it's my brother, like my younger brother. He's just always like, bro, read One Piece, bro. Like I'm telling you, it's great, it's amazing.
That's the same with me, yeah.
And I was just like, man, no, I'm not reading that. It's too long. I'm not reading that. Whatever. I'm not reading that. Like, and then one day I was just odd. I was just sitting in the house and I was like, man, it was just one of those really boring days. And I was like, man, let me just see what's up, because like my entire Twitter feed was just people talking about One Piece. So I was just like, man, let me see what's up with it. So I just start reading, and like I just couldn't stop. And it got to the point where I was reading, 40, 50 chapters a day. Like I was just going.
I've heard people compare that to Gintama, where it also has a very slow start in terms of the action and everything. It's mainly focused on comedy, and you're like, what is this that I'm looking at, right? But then like some of the One Piece it picks
Gintama
up, and then you're
hooks
like,
you
okay,
out
now I
of
see.
nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you start to appreciate that early part, like maybe say the first like few episodes to get a feel for it, it's great. But I feel like by the time you get to like episode 50, 52, like that range is really, it starts going up. You see, okay, this is where the appeal comes from, because people will just look at it as a comedy, but so much more than that. But with One Piece, I definitely do the same thing too with the manga. I think for me, it didn't take till Baratier until I felt like, wow, this is actually like pretty good. And then after that, I just took off from there.
I was
Mihawk is usually a big turning point.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely Mihawk. When I like just seeing Mihawk, like it was so cool when I was reading it that I was like, I had to turn the anime on. Like, all right, I gotta see this on the anime, like, because
it's kind of beautiful when you think about it, like the way that Oda writes his story. And I don't know if he had readers in mind, but just I think he might have been like eager to show us what awaited in the new world, right? Or like just Mihawk as a figure and what that moment kind of personified, like the distance where Zoro couldn't believe that this gap was so wide. I think a lot of his readers could not believe that we had this jump from basic piracy to someone like Mihawk, right? And made us wonder what laid on the other side. Once we got there, how much further the story would go.
Yeah, like the journey wasn't gonna be like smooth sailing just like that. His introduction really did change the game, definitely. And it's like, even with Luffy, like we come to like, oh, we want to see him become king of the pirates, but having that moment with Zoro and Mihawk makes us want to actually see him accomplish his goal, being like the greatest swordsman, or Sanji finding like the all blue, Nami, drawing on maps of the world and stuff. And every time you start to see more of these characters start coming into the story and being a part of the crew and start seeing their stories and what they try to aspire to become and want to accomplish, that's where I guess like also the appeal comes in too, where it's like, yeah, I want to see more than just Luffy, because they're a part of this crew going towards this dream of finding the One Piece.
I think for me, the part that really hooked me in was Arlong Park. I'm a big Sanji fan. For people that do know me, I'm probably the most toxic one too. But
yes, you are.
But I think
these are the facts.
The best.
What's there to be toxic about? Sanji's the best Straw Hat, and that's all there is to say.
I like this man. I like him a lot, actually. He's a good man.
You can edit out this comment, but he not.
Yeah, he's a good man. Keep that, by the way. But I would say the emotional moment, I think that was the first extremely emotional moment that I felt in One Piece, with Nami and her ordeal with Arlong, and that whole moment of her basically stabbing herself in the arm because she could not bear Arlong. Like, she just couldn't, and Arlong had put her in such a box. And the moment where we finally see Luffy, it's like you realized how great of a man Luffy truly was in that specific moment with Nami, and then him beating Arlong and Luffy yelling out, "Nami, you're my friend." And it's like, it's those moments where the emotion overwhelms you and you get completely attached with One Piece, because now it's not just an enjoyment factor, but it's just like you're pulling on my emotions here, and that's where the love really truly set in for me, was Arlong Park. And you get more moments like that. Like the Chopper moment was pretty cool, even though I slander Chopper ridiculously. That moment, no, pretty fairly, I think. But but overall, One Piece has a plethora of those moments, especially pre-time skip, and I feel like that's what draws in its audience, is those really powerful emotional moments.
For sure.
Think about it like this: like, what other manga today that's coming out today could pull off a chapter with Gaimon at like 19 or 20? You would never see that today.
I would argue Haikyuu, but but I don't know if everyone reads it.
I'd love to see Gaimon in Haikyuu.
Ooh,
that would be a powerful individual.
I think it'd be a libero.
Yeah,
a great libero. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd grow wings. He could fly high.
He got hops for sure in that little chest.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, that toe strength, bro.
Yes.
What a box out.
Toe strength. That reminds me of Hajime no Ippo. You're talking about toe strength.
Ooh, running on the beach.
Yeah.
Fire.
Another incredible manga, by the way.
Yeah.
Update from Morj, by the way, will be popping in 30. But Awesome. So do you guys have a favorite moment in Wano? Like,
I have to really look back at that, because I think it's quite like a few huge moments it's had so far, but it's tough to say because, like, you know, even though it's such a big moment now, something's gonna be topped after. But I think for me, I think probably the Zoro and Sanji when they reunited, like after the execution of Yasue, because that's something that's been built up for so long. We wanted to see them reunite since Dressrosa, and then coming in that moment to save like Toko and just have like, you know, the dynamic duo being there. It's like finally huge. All's right in the world. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that was huge. They kind of gave each other that kind of like that nod of approval, that little look.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
And not to mention too the fact that, like, you know, again, the Sanji and Zoro fans, we go at our throats all the time, but when we're a tag team, we're unstoppable. Like, that's facts.
Go back to the Foxy arc, man. You saw that double team move. Come on now.
Ennie's lobby when they pulled up and everything, the guards freaking out, man. Like, come on, butts on them gates.
Man, I think that's why I think it's so crazy. I made a video about this. Like, people think that like Sanji and Zoro hate each other. I'm just like, what?
I think it's just all jokes aside and stuff, but I think there's certain people in certain parts of the community that just, it's a lifestyle to them.
Well, there's definitely some animosity there, but I don't know if it like borderlines on like hatred, like, you know, you want something bad to happen to this person.
I feel like Zoro holds Sanji to very high expectations, and that can lead to some problems.
That's true.
Yeah, like when he left, Zoro was pretty disgusted by that action.
I feel like a lot of Sanji fanboys also love Zoro, but a lot of Zoro fanboys don't love Sanji. So it creates that type of toxicity in the community. Like, I like to joke around and shit, but Zoro is still one of my favorite characters.
So you're saying like it's artificial, like this notion of hatred?
It's like a hive mentality. You know, like a lot of people that just have that because they know it's gonna get jokes off and stuff, and that people's gonna grab attention after, right?
Yeah. As someone who has a doctorate in this type of debate, I would say that
you have a PhD.
Yeah, literally, I have a PhD in Zoro versus Sanji debate. Now, I would say that Briggs is 100% correct, because I used to love, well, let me not say used to, I still do love Zoro, but I think what happened is Zoro took it in a way where you have to undermine Sanji in order to make Zoro look good, when that's not necessary at all. Zoro is good on his own, and you know me. So basically what they would say is that, especially after Whole Cake, there was the whole notion that Sanji needs to apologize to Luffy, and as a result of that, Zoro won't forgive him either, and there's going to be a giant clash between Sanji and Zoro. And then people would say, well, no, that's not the case, because Luffy already forgave him. And then what they would do is they would basically bring up all the quote-unquote L's that Sanji has had throughout his entire career on the Straw Hats, and how he failed in Enies Lobby with the Khalifa stuff, and how he lost to Virgo because he got his shin broken, and Zoro, that would never happen to Zoro. And, you know, Sanji fans, being defensive as they are, obviously try to clap back like, oh no, that's not the case, Zoro lost here and there, and you can't just make fun of Sanji when it happens to Zoro. And then you can see how everything devolved into a shit show from that point on.
I just don't understand why it's a strength competition. Like,
it shouldn't be.
They always pull up all the L's, as you said, or like just all, like, he doesn't have good fight moments, but they're different characters, right? Zoro at the end of the day wants to be the world's strongest swordsman, and he's the right-hand man to the future Pirate King. A complete different situation to someone who wants to find the all blue and is the chef of a crew. It's badass in its own right that he's one of the strongest in the crew, and he has a lot of great moments. And I think he's one of the best ridden Straw Hats, just because he's not out here fighting, like, it's not his role to fight the strongest character every arc, you know, or one of the strongest.
You know, it's really interesting when you go back and you look at all the L's that Sanji has taken, and you realize it's like each of these is very purposeful, and Sanji always accomplishes something, but it's not always what the fans want. Like, he saves, you know, he saves Tashigi, or he saves the Straw Hat crew, and he might take a loss in the process, or might not get a win, but it's Oda setting up what Sanji is more interested in. You know, where Zoro's interested in the fight, Sanji's interested in protecting Lamin or his friends or something of that nature.
Sanji's also more of a utility. Sanji's like more of a utility member of the crew as well, because he doesn't just leap into combat. He does things like, you know, skulk away in the shadows and do something sneaky. Like, he's very mentally in tune, and that's, I think, where he excels.
Let me ask you
something. Exactly what you guys are saying is what causes arguments with Sanji fans to begin with, because that's exactly what Zoro fans say when they try to low-key undermine Sanji.
Yep.
And Jay will know this from experience, is that those exact words are what Zoro fans say.
And to attack him.
Yes, the connotation of those words lessens Sanji.
It lessens.
You may think otherwise, but coming from a Sanji fan, when you hear Zoro fans say that,
but
there's an added connotation onto it.
Doesn't that fit the character mantra, Dritz, where Zoro's like a brute, a brute force character, right? He just runs in there and just up. Oh, sorry.
No. We gotta watch that. I've been a good boy, by the way. I've been a very good boy.
Let me repeat it in a PG way. Doesn't that like contradict the character mantra, Dritz, where Zoro just runs in there and he like messes up
say it without the F word.
he messes up his opponents. He just like uses brute strength all the time, right? Whereas Sanji's always using his mind as influence. Not to say Zoro is dumb. Zoro has intelligence.
Mind versus body.
You are right in that regard, but the fact is that from experience, I've talked to all sides about the same amount. Is that a vast majority of Sanji fans do think that the way that the story's been written is that it doesn't put Zoro heavily above Sanji in terms of fighting importance. And that's often what Zoro fans point to whenever they try to distinguish between the character or usage of Zoro and Sanji.
Yes.
Well, I'm not here to attack anybody, but sometimes you gotta accept the facts, right? Zoro fights somebody every arc. Sanji does not necessarily fight somebody every arc. Or have that same sort of climactic battle every single arc. So there is a difference there. But I mean, at the end of the day,
this is why I feel like a lot of people would like GrandLineReview's video on power scaling, right? How the power scale doesn't exist. I know we had a back and forth with Brago on that.
That's a nice plug.
Yeah, right. And right, if you a Sanji stan, you're gonna be like, yeah, bro, like we can't really argue on the powers. Since we don't know who would win a fight, they pretty much equal because Oda doesn't really have power scaling. Zoro likes to do this when he fights. You guys want to say that makes him better than Sanji, but Sanji uses a certain way of fighting. Uses his mind, his utility, stuff like that. So we just don't know who would come out on top.
See, I agree 100%. I think the problem is, and I think this is what Dritz is trying to say, is that like for people like us, we understand that makes Sanji like that's a good thing for Sanji. It's a positive. But when you're talking to certain fans, and like Zoro fans in particular, not all of them, but some of them, they look at everything in a very hyperactive combat sense where it's all about aggression and just pure strength. So they'll say those things, and to us it's like, well, that's kind of cool, right? That's Sanji. But to them, it's an insult. Like to them, that's them saying, oh, well, he's less than Zoro because he's less aggressive. He's less this. He's less that. But to us, it's like he's cunning. He has a very good fighting style. He's different. But to them,
he's had two amazing, well fleshed out backstories. Like,
yeah,
Goku could kick Zoro. Goku's a better character. Like, well, I don't understand why it's about strength. I love Zoro because he has these bad moments and these amazing fights, and I love him for that. But you could love Sanji for completely different reasons, and I don't see
different characters.
They're different characters. I don't see the reason of getting upset over, like, I don't know. People are too focused on strength for me.
Yeah, the way they just handle themselves, whether it be combat or strategy, is completely vice versa. Like, you can't expect Zoro to be the one forming strategies, and you can't be expecting Sanji to be the one just always throwing hands all the time. Like, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, and you just gotta appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, for some reason, like, some people think that like less fighting, less like combat experience equals bad character. I don't really understand that, but that's how some people look at it. Like,
dude, if every character on the crew was a Zoro,
but it just seems like a missing the point take.
Yeah.
If
every character on the crew was Zoro, I think I would have dropped One Piece. Like, I love Zoro, but you can't have everyone be the same.
You can't have everyone be the same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everyone's has their own personality, so like they gotta mix and mingle, and like they're good in one area, one in another. Like, but I mean, I think also too, it comes down to the whole thing with like Sanji and Zoro. It's like the patience, because you feel like this arc to us in a way is kind of almost like Enies Lobby, where this is finally their time to show, like, on such a grand stage against the Yonko, against like the big crews, that they're ready to be on that level. And because again the pacing's been taking so long and stuff, for those characters in particular who haven't had the climb to that next stage, aside from like Luffy, who's really showcased that maybe he's getting closer and closer to finding the Yonko, whereas everyone else is kind of on the back burner. So I think patience too kind of doesn't help out, where they haven't really gotten a chance to show that they're ready to be there. And anytime that they don't do anything, they get slandered. If they start to do something, it's not good enough for what they want, and that's kind of like see where the discourse can also come and be from there.
Yeah, sure, for sure. So I kind of want to segue into a question that I'm curious about, because I don't think I've had this conversation with some of you, but what is your favorite One Piece arc?
Enies Lobby. Enies Lobby, easy.
Yeah,
Marine.
Enies Lobby or Marineford. It's one of those two, but I typically say Enies Lobby just because I like the deception of it, I guess, the mystery, and the plot twist. Really, like that. That was probably the defining moment in which I'm like, okay, One Piece is like the greatest thing ever.
I remember reading I remember reading that, and I was like, when I saw the panel where like the bird goes to his shoulder, and I was like, oh no. Like, I just remember that, like, sinking feeling in my chest, like, no.
CP9 turn, yeah. You guys shook me. I was not expecting that at all when it happened.
Are you guys calling Water 7 and Enies Lobby, like, the same arc together?
Yeah, they are to me. Like, even if I call it the Water 7 saga arc, like, yeah.
Some people do. I look at them differently, but I was thinking that also, though, because that plots was happened during Water 7. But
yeah.
I saw Fiji mentioned on Twitter, and it kind of makes sense now. He was saying that even if you separate Enies Lobby and Water 7 as two separate arcs, he thinks that Water 7 as standalone is one of the greatest arcs because of it's like underrated because of the Usopp versus Luffy fight. Like if Fiji hears this, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah.
But I combine arcs in my head. It's like it's the action continued from one to another, so it's the same.
Yeah, if you're combining them, then yeah.
To me, that's a suck.
It's one of the greatest arcs ever created in the medium.
Yeah, like, that's insane. Me personally, my favorite. Now, I just want to make sure that everyone understands. I'm saying my favorite. So, in my opinion, I'm not. I just want to make sure everyone understands. I'm not saying it's the best, because people always misconstrue that. Like, because I feel like, at least for me, I feel like you can have a favorite. Something can be your favorite, but you can also admit that it's not the best. But some people don't look at it like that. Some people are like, well, if it's your favorite, it's the best, in your opinion. But it's whatever. But anyways, my favorite arc is Skypiea. I love Skypiea.
Your opinion is bad, and you should feel bad.
Disregard my comment.
Hey, listen, I love Skypiea. I read Skypiea. I didn't watch the anime for Skypiea, and a lot of people don't particularly like the anime for Skypiea, and their complaint is always the pacing or whatever. I've never watched Skypiea, so I don't know, but I read it and I love it, and notably because of the Nolan flashbacks, like my favorite flashback in the series. I just enjoyed it a lot and thoroughly. So yeah,
it's a solid choice. It's like One Piece adventure at its finest.
Yeah, because sure. that's like the One Piece arc. Like, in terms of like the adventure aspect, like going to the highest possibilities I think we've seen so far. Maybe Wano in terms of the getting to their point and stuff. I think Sky Island, like in the natural story, is just wild.
I love it, man. I it's also kind of going back to what we were talking about, Water 7 and Enies Lobby. I know that they're two different things, but I kind of in my head combine Jaya with it, because like it.
Oh yeah, same.
So it's like. And I just love Jaya, like all of it, like the Blackbeard speech, chef's kiss, amazing. And then like the moment with Nami when she's in the ship and like she realizes like what they have to do, and that's when I really see Nami like, yo, like she is the navigator. Like that's when I really knew, kind of like, for me at least, like she's, of course she had moments in Arlong Park and stuff, but like this is when I was like, yo, I was taking Nami like super serious, like on a different level, when they were like in the stream and they were going to the Sky Island itself. And then of course, like Enel, some people don't like Enel. I thought Enel was great. I loved him for what he was. He has a god complex. Some people don't like that. I do. And he just was
his entire character.
Yeah, like
reminds me of myself.
He was bodying everyone. Like this is the first time I seen like someone like that, like yo, he was just bodying people. Like my very first video on YouTube was an analysis video of Enel and how I think if he went into the New World, things would go. And there's this part on the video
poorly
there. Yeah, for sure. That's the conclusion I came to at the end. But it was just fun to like dig into Enel's character. And I have a part on the video where I just make a montage of every body that he caught and I just play circus music to it, and it's it's hilarious, man. Because like, I don't think I realized how many people he bodied until I went back, like, and was like looking, and it's just like, man, yeah. So yeah, I've talked about Skypiea enough, but I would like to hear from the rest of you guys what your favorite arcs are.
But for me, it's somewhere between Alabasta and Enies Lobby. I can't really decide which one. They're like similar elements. Obviously, Alabasta and Enies Lobby are connected because of Robin. But that's not mainly the reason why I like those arcs. I think it was just because of how expansive, and I mean, every arc has emotion in it. That's one thing that Oda's really good at. But for me, those arcs really hit home. It used to be Baratier. For whatever reason. I think because Sanji, pre-time skip Sanji was one of my favorite characters. It's not the same anymore. I mean, I still like Sanji. He's definitely up there, but he used to be like number 3 for me, right? And that's definitely changed. It wasn't even because of Mihawk. It wasn't even because of the fights per se. It was just because of the way that Sanji was introduced, the certain themes, right? The concept of, you know, as a cook, it's my job to feed anyone and everyone. Now I loved how, I don't know if that's like a common thing in manga or other forms of literature, or if Oda like created that himself and it was inspired by something that is common, which is doctors, right? The Hippocratic Oath or whatever it is, where doctors don't judge their patients, right? They don't discriminate. They just take care of anybody. You could be a murderer, right? You could be Adolf Hitler, right? And he would, and a doctor would tend to their patient without bias, and you know, and then once they're off the job, they would, you know, think whatever they want about you. That's basically how doctors hold themselves to that standard. Whereas, like, if you're a cook, you know, with Sanji, it's just, he's kind of the same way, right? People get mad saying, oh, why is he cooking for Big Mom? I know people found panels saying that Sanji's contradicting himself, but I never really agreed with that. You know, I always thought that Sanji would literally feed anybody. You know,
and that scene where he fed Hitler was great as well. That's one of my favorite Sanji moments.
But yeah, that's basically Alabasta and Enies Lobby, yeah.
Yeah, to go back to my point about Lobby, though, like why it struck me so hard at the time is when I first started watching One Piece, it wasn't very actively from the sense of I'm trying to analyze this, because when I first started, watching it, I don't think that I was that developed as just an anime fan in general. And so what I've always like looked for, I think, is, you know, I think most of us grew up with Dragon Ball Z to some extent, where it's like we like the shonen tropes and the fighting aspects of it, but I was always looking for more story. And I think the first place that I found that was One Piece, and it wasn't until maybe like Alabasta, but more specifically Enies Lobby, that it hit me that that One Piece's writing was on another level to the other things that I was watching out there.
Awesome. All Day, what is your favorite arc?
So on a similar note to you, I'm able to see that, like, I'd say Water 7 and his Lobby are like probably critically the best arcs in One Piece, but I am a Baratier fanboy. I think that is the arc that made me fall in love with One Piece, and kind of like, I enjoyed everything before Baratier. I thought it was all right, but like once I watched Baratier, I was hooked. You get the scene with Mihawk that kind of sets up the Grand Line and how far behind Luffy and Zoro and the rest of the crew are in strength, and how much further they need to get. Like, they're literally a pebble compared to like everything else, and how far they have to go in order to achieve their dreams. And then Sanji, being one of my favorite characters, get to introduce with solid backstory and good themes. We get to see Luffy fight Don Krieg, which I think is an underrated fight. You get to, not because Don Krieg's a good villain per se, but more, you see the contrast between Don Krieg and Mihawk, but you also get to see Luffy and kind of get an understanding of who he is as a fighter and as a person. Like, you get Zeph making the comment, like, it's annoying to fight someone like that, someone with no fear. You get the scene where he punches through the spikes, and it still gives me goosebumps to this day. I think it's an underrated arc. Arlong Park also, right afterwards, also hooked me, obviously. I think that's also a very top-tier, critically acclaimed arc. And I just have a quick comment. That's really all I have to say about Baratier, but I have a quick comment about Jaya and Water 7. I think when like analyzing or rating those at arcs, you kind of have to take them by themselves as the arc, but also like you don't attach it to Enies Lobby, but take into account what it did for Enies Lobby or what it did for Skypiea when giving it its rating, because it affects it and continues to set up for it, right?
For sure. I definitely look at them as like they're like they have their own moments, but I agree, like, to some extent towards the end and stuff, they're definitely setups for like a bigger, like the grand scheme of things.
Because when you're watching in his lobby and you see a big scene happen, you think back to Water 7. And same thing with Skypiea at the very end when he punches the bell, you think back to Jaya and Noland the Liar and that entire backstory that was set up prior. So I think the finishing of that definitely gives the previous arc some points.
For sure.
Agreed.
I agree. Grand Line, what you got, man? What's your favorite arc?
As I said earlier, it would be Marineford, but I think a lot of that is the nostalgia. Because I don't know how many of you were reading it weekly at the time. It was a long time ago now, like over a decade, I think. But it was probably the best weekly experience of reading a manga I've ever had. Because there was no such thing as a mediocre chapter weekly in Marineford. Everything presented you with something crazy, like a random scene of Crocodile fighting Mihawk or revelations up the arse. It was just brilliant. And like a culmination of everything that we'd been building towards for like over a decade at that point. So it was really solid nostalgic experience.
No argument for me.
For sure. All right, JD brother, what's your favorite arc, man?
So, for me, the best arc in One Piece is Enies Lobby, followed by Marineford. But in terms of favorite arc, I guess I would say the arc that I have the fondest memories of is probably Skypiea. And it's not really something that I've shared a lot. I think I've just talked about Skypiea quite a bit. But like you mentioned before, just the world itself was really interesting. I think it was the first, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think it was like the first kind of mythical fantasy experience that we had with One Piece in terms of like an upward stream and an island in the sky and things of that nature, and kind of just actually seeing that. And then I think one of the funniest moments is when they first entered Skypiea. They saw that really old angel lady, and she was kind of like God, what is it called? Like, it's kind of like a toll in a way, and it's kind of just like, this is really quirky. Like,
what's that was hilarious.
Amazon.
And then, I think just the world itself, the fact that the clouds are water, the fact that there's fish swimming in the clouds, but then when they jump down as humans, they literally can plummet straight back down to the sea. It's just like, it was just like a fantasy world everywhere. And the fact that there's people there, and then there's the Shandian, so you have mythology there, and then you have the notion of God, and who is this God person, and you think, oh my God, is there an actual God?
How advanced they were too, like with like the dials. Like, I thought the dials were super cool at the time when I was
they
reading
really
it.
were.
Yeah, the dials were definitely cool, and then the humor actually was probably one of Skypiea humor might be up there with like Thriller Bark in terms of like just straight up humor, because there were so many funny moments in Skypiea. So it's just like it kind of just gave you everything, and obviously Eno, I mean, one of the best villains in One Piece. And then overall, yeah, Skypiea was just really, really memorable to me. There's so many funny moments.
For sure. Okay, Dritz, what's your favorite arc, buddy?
My favorite arc would be Marineford. That's the arc that changed me from like a casual fan to a diehard fan. It was after Marineford that the only thing I could think about was One Piece. I didn't get hooked with One Piece until Water 7, but Marineford is what kind of put it to the next level, and I just couldn't. Every day I was at work and I was in school, I just think about One Piece. Even though the arc is flawed, I love it still to this day for what it is.
Were you at the time when you were watching Marineford? Were you like binging, or?
I was binging hard. I remember that I basically watched all of Marineford in like 2 days. And like I was watching it, I'll never forget, because the climax of Marineford with spoilers, the death of Ace.
Whoa!
I know, right?
Jesus, it's Lord, Tritz.
The ending of The Last of Us 2 is, but but I remember it was 3 a.m. in the morning whenever I finally got to the episode where Ace died, and I'm a beta male, so I cry pretty easily. So I remember that during that entire episode, I had tears streaming down my face, and I wear glasses. So like whenever you start crying when you have glasses, it starts fogging up your glasses.
Oh man, it's gross.
So I had to take them off and start rubbing them, and like my throat was so choked up. That was a wonderful moment I'll never forget.
So you had a Kobe moment then.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say that you like The Last of Us 2?
I never played. I know the story.
Oh, you haven't played it? Okay, I've seen a lot of people deadpan that. So,
all right, guys. This is the point where we transfer into a gaming stream. Let's talk.
You don't want my opinion?
No, I was kidding. But
I'll box you.
but yeah, man. No, I agree. I love Marine.
Well, damn, you don't want my opinion. Damn.
Oh, did you? Oh, did.
I'll dead ass. I just said only Annie's lobby easy, so I was figure. Okay, I'll go last.
Well, I was just making a joke because Ragnar said something about a game.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Vor, edit all this out.
That's fine.
But
No, you good.
No, but what's your favorite arc there, Les?
Now, for me, though, Annie's lobby, to be serious, I know obviously what Brick said earlier about Water Sevens, where it's like you can't grade it together with Annie's lobby, but without Water 7, you don't get the same impact from Annie's lobby without it. But I also feel at the same time, for me, like as much as Baratie was like, where okay, this is where my interest starts to come in with One Piece. I think that's the arc for me that really cemented my love for this series, and kind of the culmination of this crew is legit. This is like a family in a sense, because obviously throughout the journey they're still getting to know each other and stuff. They're relatively new, but by that point in the story, you have conflicts, challenge each other with the whole Luffy and Usopp thing, and how you see Usopp's trying to redeem himself, by being like Soga King and all that, getting everyone's fights, and the Robin flashback, and seeing that she really wants to be a part of people's lives, but she can't. And then Luffy's like, what, I see who my enemies are, that's preventing her from doing this, and goes against the whole world, and just showing like that's what a family is that no matter what stands in front of you, if you just go and stick to your guns and fight for what you believe in, anything is gonna be possible, and freedom could exist. And that's kind of one of the things why I love for Luffy, and just one of the climaxes in general, like the going merry, the passing and stuff like that whole, whether it's a manga, whether it's the anime, I think it's probably the most emotional. I know people say, oh, you cry over a piece of wood, but it's tragic, because it's like, yeah, like we had people saying for so long, like, oh, like someone could possibly die in this arc, that feel and vibe, and yeah, Straw Hat did die, the going merry, and they lost one of their ones that they've had since the start of the journey, and just everything that culminated to, it's like, this is like, if you have Arlong Parks where you start to love One Piece, or you had maybe Marineford or Sabaody, I think that's the truest answer you're going to get to why do I love One Piece, and people will just look at Eddie's lobby, and that's what's for me.
For sure, man, for sure. Great explanation. So I just want to find out, we just talked about your guys' favorite arcs, so I would like to know who your favorite Straw Hat member is and who your favorite non-Straw Hat member is.
So
People are about to be judged right now.
Pre-time skip, I would say maybe it was Sanji, but not anymore. I'd say it's definitely Luffy, right? A lot of the Straw Hats, that is because of their character designs. Like when I first got to the post-time skip, I was looking at those panels, right, for the Straw Hats as a group. I don't know what Oda was thinking for some of them, but but it is what it is. I actually made a joke about Frankie being dead still, right? Because I just don't recognize him anymore. But yeah, I'd say that Luffy is definitely like my favorite Straw right now. I mean, he still remains true to who he is, but you can like noticeably see the growth in him. You probably don't want like a top. You just ask for our favorite. So yeah, that's it.
For sure, man. Grand Line, what you got, bro? Who's your favorite Straw Hat, favorite non-Straw Hat character?
My favorite Straw Hat is obviously Zoro. No real strong reason behind it, but Zoro was the reason why I actually got into One Piece. My first experience with the series was the 4Kids dub. I saw it on Cartoon Network. I saw Luffy. I thought it was ridiculous, but then I saw this dude holding 3 swords, and I was like, maybe I should check this out. And so yeah, even with the 4Kids dub declension over it, Zoro was still cool enough to get me into the series, and I will always love him for that. And my favorite non-Straw Hat is really difficult, because that's, literally every other character in the series. It changes quite a bit. I would say that Charlotte Katakuri is probably up there at the moment, and that's probably the best answer I can give. It will change next week.
Katakuri is dope. He's dope. But yeah, Zoro's also cool. Joy Boy, what you got, man? Who's your favorite Straw Hat, favorite non-Straw Hat member?
I mean, the realistic answer is probably Luffy, if I'm being honest with myself. But I don't like to say Luffy, because I like to be that cool kid that's, it's like I like somebody other than the main character of the story. So if not Luffy, then it'd be Zoro. But I'm really not too sure. just because I don't think in those sort of terms of like which one's the best. I either like or I don't like typically, or really like. It's I tier it out like that. But yeah, I'll say Zoro or Luffy. For my favorite non-Straw Hat, Katakuri is a good answer. Whitebeard is probably who I'm feeling the most right now.
He is the GOAT.
That's a great answer.
He's a GOAT. All right, man, for sure. JD, I already know one of your answers, but I'd like to hear him anyway.
So, as you all know, Sanji is my favorite Straw Hat pre and post time skip because I'm loyal. But I think so. Funny thing that GrandLine mentioned 4Kids dub, and I'm glad he did because the Sanji 4Kids dub voice is to this day one of my favorite voices ever. Like I know people hate it, but it was just as a kid I literally mocked it every time, and I don't know why I like the lollipop, but I actually like the lollipop.
Sanji is a nice character. He sounds like he sounds like Johnny Bravo, doesn't he?
He does. He's like Dummy, and I was like, yo, look at this. Dummy, And then I don't know, Grant, I'm sure you remember the clip of him talking to Kurobi. And he's like, "You're a liar, pants on fire," or whatever, something like that. I was like, "Yo, all right, 4Kids is just different. It's built different." But I think overall, Sanji's fighting style is my favorite fighting style. I love martial arts, but just purely kicking, it's not something I think I've seen before. So the way he fights has just been extremely interesting to me. And then obviously that you have the fact later on you get more of Sanji's character, but overall the espionage, the Mr. Prince, all his movesets, I love Sanji. And then the more and more I learned about him, the more and more I liked him. So Sanji, number one Straw Hat for me. And then it's really hard for me to pick one outside of the story because there's three that I normally hone in on. Blackbeard is one. Crocodile is two, and then probably Monkey D. Garp is three. But I think I can probably just say Blackbeard just because, I mean, everything about my channel is centered around Blackbeard in general. So
I see from your icon at the moment.
Yeah, I was about to say it'd be egregious if I didn't say Blackbeard. So I'm gonna say that.
For sure.
Oh, you gonna swerve us there?
Dritz.
No, I'm a Prona fan,
Dritz, what you got there for me?
Favorite Straw Hat is Nami. That's commonly known.
Yes, sir.
Favorite non-Straw Hat plus favorite character would be Ace.
That was a great choice.
Dope. Laz, what you got?
I mean, for everyone who knows me, post time skip, first chapter we've seen them. It's been Rowan or Zoro, as it should be. Pre-time skip for me was Ace. Just because again, he's like the big brother and stuff, and that's something I can relate to very much with my own. Just the relationship he had with Sabo and Luffy, and just even more appreciation to the whole post Marine Fur and getting to see like their past and their their brotherhood and everything, and just making that whole thing more tragic. That's in the end, like even though we know Sabo was fine after, but he had thought that he had lost one. Meanwhile, like the other one was still good, and he wasn't able to finally be able to see him, and then just his whole death and everything had an impact. But post time skip for me would be Law, and I liked him pre time skip, but I felt like because we didn't know enough of him, it was hard to just say like, oh yeah, like I like him. But as soon as we got to like Punk Hazard and especially Just Rosa, where he got into his past, the stuff with Corazon, and just the making of his character, and it has just been awesome for me, and I hope that it stays that way, the greatness that he's been bringing out, so that doesn't change that position anytime soon.
For sure. Briggs, last but not least, what you got for me, buddy?
Well, I'm pretty sure I've probably made it clear at this point that Sanji's my favorite Straw Hat. But then again, I'm weird. I probably like Luffy more too, or like very close at the very least. Whenever I talk about my favorite Straw Hat, it's usually like non-protagonist, like non-main character. And then I would love to hear what you guys think about his second backstory in Whole Cake, to be honest. But before that, I think Buggy is my favorite non-Straw Hat. Like he's like I thought he was gonna be a throwaway character the first time he was introduced, and he just keeps on coming back, and I just keep on loving him more and more, and I want him to come back in as much as possible. Honestly, I just want him to meme his way to the Pirate King.
You're in good company because he's Oda's favorite character as well, so he's gonna keep coming back.
Hell yeah!
Buggy's hilarious. For me, my favorite Straw Hat pre-time skip was Sanji. And now it's Jinbei. but my favorite non-Straw Hat characters pre and post time skip are purely for aesthetic reasons mostly, but also the one moment that that he had, but I just thought it was so cool when Lucky Roo pulls up and he headshots this guy while eating a chicken leg. Like, I just, for some reason, that moment for me was just hilarious. Also, just looking at this guy, he's got this big round belly, he's got this like belly shirt on, basically. Like, it's just funny. So I loved Lucky Roo just like for his design and stuff. And then we get to post time skip, and like everyone that, you know, follows me like on Twitter or like just knows me in general knows how I feel about cats. I love cats, like just in general, they're just amazing. So when I see Nekomamushi and Zoe, I instantly was like, oh man, yeah, this is my favorite character now. Like, I really don't even care what he does, I just don't care, he's a cat. And some people are like, that doesn't make any sense, like how can he be your favorite character? And it's like, it's my favorite character. Like, so I love Neko, man. We get this, like, he's just a big goofy cat. He's got a Garfield reference with him eating lasagna. Like, it's just, he's just awesome. So those are my favorite non-Straw Hat characters and my favorite Straw Hat characters, yeah. But Briggs, you did mention that you would like to talk about the flashback, and I mean, we could take time and talk about that if that's something you want to talk about.
I'm just curious on like people's opinion on Whole Cake in general and Sanji's flashback, because I do feel like Sanji gets a decent amount of slander for, like, you know, not getting enough fights and stuff like that, and it was supposed to be his year with Whole Cake. I thought Whole Cake was a pretty good arc, and I loved the ending of. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Sanji got an entire mega arc essentially just to focus on him. Like, it was a great arc, and I don't know why people are complaining. Sanji baked a cake. It was good fun.
I think it was a drag to read weekly after like some certain points when we got to like the whole, like, you know, the woods with the whole leading up before the cracker fight. It was taking some time to get to. Even like the climax after the cake, it took a lot of time to get to. Granted, they had some high moments, but there are definitely times where things were stalling, kind of, I guess, like how some people are currently feeling right now with Wano. It isn't that high up for me, but the backstory itself I think is good. But I think my frustrations with how it was paced weekly, and again, I haven't gone back to reread it in full just because, you know, I'm just having my Big Mom detox away from all that. So, but the backstory, it definitely opens up more into his character. You get a better understanding of everything around Sanji. But I definitely will say I'm one of those people that took my frustrations out on him. And maybe him baking a cake to Big Mom Fang wasn't something I was ready to enjoy as be like, you know, the way to get away from Big Mom. But the arc is good. I don't have it as amazing, but it's good.
It's like his ultimate moment as a chef, though. It's brilliant. I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Whole Cake Island stan. It's definitely my favorite arc so far in the New World. But you know, it's one of those things where I feel like, you know, it's kind of like we were talking about Water 7 in Enies Lobby. Whole Cake Island is the Water 7 to Wano's Enies Lobby. And so I think that a lot of people were looking for some payoff in that arc that never amounted to anything because it's going to pay off later. And so that, you know, unrequited expectation there. So, yeah, I mean, that's just my general feel about the arc as a whole. And I think that towards around, like, I don't know, like 970 or so, people were expecting the arc to end, and it didn't end. And then we went into a period of, I don't want to call it filler, but there was a lot of things that were accomplished that the readers weren't looking forward to. They were looking forward to the end of the arc and some kind of major payoff that never came. And so that period of essentially getting, you know, Big Mom chasing after the Straw Hats on the Sunny, and, you know, the training arc with Luffy and Katakuri, that ended up being not wanted and a huge detriment.
The greatest fight in the series.
Well, it was the greatest fight by the end, but towards the middle, it was, you know, there was a lot of, like,
outside interference.
The pacing of the fight was very weird, and lots of interference and things of that nature, yeah.
Flampe did not need to be introduced. I'm sorry.
I mean, she was kind
of with women.
I'll not get into it. She was kind of the pivotal point of that entire fight.
I think if she was going to be introduced, I think she should have just been introduced at some point earlier, because the purpose of her being in the fight, I think, was good. I just think that it came a little out of random or out of nowhere, basically, because she kind of she was like invented just for that moment, is what it felt like.
Yeah.
Whereas if she'd been dropped a little earlier.
I mean, if you replaced her with
What's going on?
Welcome, Morj. Morj is
Of course, Morj just up right when we're talking about Whole Cake
time,
Island.
perfect timing. We're talking about Whole Cake Island. But
No. Don't want
for
to talk
me,
about whole cake.
for me, I would, like I said, you guys know I was binging, and so I was kind of just going through the story, and I hit this point, and Jay knows this because we've had a plethora of conversations about Sanji in my early days of reading. But I hit this point where I was just really upset with Sanji, and I feel like some fans go through this after the moment with him and Luffy. And I just was so upset with him, and I just was like, how dare he do that? And I just didn't understand, and I just was going through it. And it took for me to get Sanji's backstory, just to talk about the backstory. It took for me to get through that to kind of start to really understand Sanji more and understand like kind of why he is the way he is. And like for me, it touched me, man. It touched me just because it was kind of like, for me personally, and I won't go into like details and stuff, but like I've been through certain situations that like I can kind of feel where Sanji was coming from, not quite to that extent, but on a minimal level. So like it was really relatable, and it helped me kind of get through that turmoil I was having with him, because I was a casual viewer at the time. I'm just reading it, and of course I love Luffy, and I was just like, how dare he do that to his captain? And I'm all upset, and Jay's just like, man, just keep reading, bro, just keep reading. And I'm just like, nah, man, I don't know, I don't really know how I feel about this. I don't really like, man, screw Sanji, like I don't like Sanji anymore, like and I kind of went through that because like, of course, like I said earlier, like Sanji was my favorite Straw Hat pre-time skip, so I was just distraught. I was just like, I can't believe Sanji would do that. And of course, I finished Whole Cake, and I kind of understood his character a little bit more, and I'm not upset with him anymore. But that's kind of my experience with it.
I feel like that was the intention, though. Like, I think your journey is bang on.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what the intent was as well, right? Like, you're kind of supposed to be like, how can Sanji do this? Kind of understand, like, he's trying to protect the crew, but it's like, really? You don't have faith in your captain and your friends? Like, we've been through this so many fucking times with other characters, with Robin, for example. It's like, you think you would have learned. So obviously I see that frustration as well, but at the same time, because he loves all these guys so much, he just want to put them in danger at the threat of a Yonko. So I had the same frustration. I wish he had... Go ahead.
I also think that there's an element of self-worth in there as well.
Yeah.
About Sanji not believing that he was worthy of the Straw Hat crew because of all these, we're talking about Sanji's L's. I think that Oda's building to a point with that, with Sanji questioning his value, especially in regards to cooking, whereas Luffy understood immediately, but Sanji was like, well, I can just leave, go to Whole Cake Island, they don't need me. But they did.
I feel like in terms of like internal conflict, right? There's obviously some internal conflict going on in the crew in terms of what was going on in that moment between Zoro, for example, once we go after him or not, and the risks involved, and basically just tearing the crew apart. We saw with Usopp, so people considered it like a Usopp 2.0, even though it was a little bit different. And I feel like a lot of us readers consider ourselves a part of the Straw Hat crew as well. When we read the story, we're like on the journey with them.
Yeah. And
so that internal conflict kind of manifested in us, like since they were saying, I think that was him talking, how we didn't know how to feel about it, right? And the tension kind of like boiled over. I remember I got kind of spoiled. I don't know how for it. I didn't get spoiled they were going to fight, but I saw like an image, a brief image of Zoro and Luffy, Sanji and Luffy standing off. And even though I got spoiled, that was one time where I didn't care. Like I was like really hyped for it, right? So I didn't really care so much that Sanji was going to fight his captain, beat his ass, Personally, I thought that was one of the moments that, for me, actually, the Sanji-Luffy conflict was my favorite part of Whole Cake Island, right? Especially how it not just so much how it got resolved, but Luffy yelling after Sanji afterwards, right? And just ending them, exchanging fists. It was a little bit different than what had happened when Usopp and Luffy had fought, right? Luffy, at first, right, he did the same thing. He wanted to chase after him, right? Luffy won, in that regard. I guess, yeah, Luffy won that regard, and then he just walked away. He said that, he mentioned it, the burden was heavy, and Zoro said this is what it means to be a captain, all those moral lessons. But in this case, right, Sanji, he didn't win, right? But I guess Luffy let him win. Maybe he understood why. Maybe he understood to an extent what was going on, and he let him walk away. And you can see the burden on Sanji, right? The burden on Sanji in this case was heavier, right? If you were
just
to
on
flip
that,
it,
yeah, I think this is one of those cases where it wasn't like a physical battle so much as a mental one, because during that entire thing, Luffy is calling him out. He's saying, "You're a liar. I don't believe this." And in the end, that kind of breaks Sanji. So even though Sanji physically demolishes him,
going off that for a moment, if I can just take it back for like what 800 chapters or something like that. So my view on Sanji and Whole Cake Island changed after I accidentally was going back through Baratie a little bit, because I was getting a friend into One Piece and stuff basically. But anyway, so I think whatever problems there are with Sanji and Whole Cake Island, or not problems, or whatever, however you view it, basically, what I think happened was that when Oda wrote Baratie, he had already planned out what he wanted to do with Sanji's character at some point in some arc down the line. The reason I say that is because the Baratie arc, the entire introduction of Sanji's character, the whole conflict in that arc is Sanji's sense of debt and responsibility versus what he actually wants to do, which is pursue his dream, go find the All Blue and everything like that. So everything that Sanji and Luffy go through in that arc is basically Luffy trying to convince Sanji, why don't you join my crew? Why don't you join my crew? Sanji's like, you don't understand. I owe a debt to Zeph, etc., etc. This is my place. I have to be here no matter what because I just owe him. This is my responsibility. And by the end of the arc, it's pretty much Sanji kind of coming to terms with the realization that he doesn't need to be doing all that. He should be pursuing his dreams. That's what Zeph himself would have wanted. And that's basically Luffy and Sanji bond over their love for One Piece, All Blue and stuff by the end of that arc. So I think taking that as the basis of what Oda thought of when he introduced Sanji's character, I think all along Oda had wanted to write a second arc for that character that would go through that same conflict. And that's basically what Whole Cake Island is. Now, the problem, as you guys have talked about, is basically Oda might not have accounted for everything that happens in the story in between, which is stuff we go through the Robin stuff. We go through this thing of leaving the crew, that going to get a crewmate back. We do it with Nami, we do it with Robin, stuff like that. So by the time Oda was I think from the start, he was committed to writing a really big storyline from Sanji down the line, where Sanji would again have to deal with all of this stuff, bringing back the Zeph stuff, bringing back the sense of responsibility, not wanting to be a burden to others, feeling like he has a duty to do a certain something and not pursue what he wants to actually do. And so then Oda basically wrote that conflict in again, but he just wanted to do it on a bigger, more visceral, more emotional, raw scale, this time with the backdrop of, a Yonko and everything like that. And so the Luffy-Sanji conflict in Whole Cake Island is exactly the same as it was in Baratie, but just played up to much greater extreme with much more going on with it. So it's kind of a case of do you guys get what I'm saying? It's it's something that he had from the start planned, most likely. It's just that I don't know if he accounted for what happened over the course of the story, how much we even tied Sanji's character back to that conflict at that point in time.
Yeah, I can see the similarity in what you're saying, Morj. The only difference I would draw is with Robin, it's I don't even know if you can say this word without getting demonetized. She, I'll just draw a synonym for it. She didn't value her life anymore. She kind of wanted. It seemed like she wanted to die, right? But Luffy challenged her on that, right? And said, "I want to hear you want to live," right? Yeah. And so I don't think Sanji ever wanted to die. Right. No, and so when you contrast the two themes, it's debt versus
I think totally different themes. I agree, but I'm saying the type of storylines that Oda had ended up writing at the point, we had run through the storyline a little bit of go get this crewmate back a few times, so there was an element of repetition.
Yeah, how you make it different, stand out.
Doesn't Luffy kind of have this thing of saving his crewmates from despair, right? Chopper feels like he's a monster, doesn't belong anywhere. Robin feels her life doesn't have value. She's a demon or devil, so whatever they call her.
Devil
Sanji. Yeah.
Even Frankie too with his stuff as well.
Yeah, I don't know how to apply it to everyone. Yeah, I have to go back and look at it. I'm not really that good at character analysis, some of you guys. But what is it? Brook, he's a deep sense of loneliness. He kind of gives them. I don't. Besides, I'm trying to look for a word beyond a place to belong.
Right? I get what you're saying. Like, we all get what you're saying. I think it's just like, I think with Sanji, Oda had planned out a certain storyline, one that we had seen in different ways up to that point. You know, in different characters, different situations and contexts. And Oda wanted to stick to that. It's just that I don't know if that for the record, I liked Whole Cake Island overall, and I liked it for what it was, and I liked what it did with Sanji's character in many different ways. But like, the one thing I do acknowledge is that, like, I think if Oda had been more open to doing something different with Sanji's character than what we had seen with a few other cases of the Straw Hats already, because I think Oda always wanted to bring it back to that, like, the core of Sanji's character is that he feels he has to stick to certain, like, principles, right? So he wanted to pit that against Luffy once again, and again bring out that conflict of, like, Sanji's trying to stick to what's right in his mind versus what he really wants to do inside that Luffy's trying to bring him out to do. Same as Baratier.
Morj, do you know the theory of the parallels pre and post time skip?
Dude, it depends, because, like, I've heard that a few ways, like Thriller Bark, Wano, stuff like that you're talking about.
Yeah, so essentially the idea is that Oda is actually purposefully taking concepts that he's used before, and he is repeating them to some extent, but with very intentional and meaningful differences. So, like, for instance, like comparing Robin leaving the crew and Sanji leaving the crew, you know, it became like there's some elements of that are twisted. Like, for instance, Sanji chose to put himself in this situation, whereas Robin had less choice in the matter. Or like feeding Big Mom the cake as opposed to Don Krieg, where the cake, or as opposed to Gin, you know, Sanji fed Gin and Don Krieg and Baratier, and that caused the conflict. But the idea is to feed Big Mom the cake and Whole Cake Island, and that ended the conflict, and certain things like that.
I definitely think that's interesting. But Jay, I'd love to hear from you. I know you've been chomping at the bits. This is your arc. This is your time.
Yeah. So the thing about the Sanji backstory that I love the most is that we kind of had to dig into the psychology of the character itself, and I think the psychology of Sanji is very, very important in understanding his behavior and what he did. So for me, like Morj was mentioning before, it seems as though when you have a traumatic experience and you go through something like PTSD, I'm sure like him seeing his family again was something that was extremely traumatic. And what normally happens in these moments is, if you're faced with that thing that virtually ruined your life for an extended period of time, especially when you were young, those things tend to come up again. And what happens is you normally relapse into old habits. And it seems as though Sanji, despite going through all of the situations that he did with Robin and Nami and everyone else, that because he is faced with his terrible past again, and he's kind of and the fact that they've threatened his own father as a result of that as well, it seems like he felt trapped. And in that moment in time, Sanji relapsed to, this is my duty. I have to do this no matter what, and nobody else can understand it because it's my duty. And Sanji basically had to live with the fact that even though his family still treats him like garbage, they're acting as if they truly want him. And you see in moments in Whole Cake where Sanji is still hurt by the things that Judge says, because Judge is trying to call him father, but he knows it means nothing because of the words Judge said to him in the flashback. So in the moment in time, I understand you being upset about him attacking Luffy, and I think Nami's reaction was all of our reactions in general. So Oda used Nami in that moment to kind of highlight how the audience should react. And then as we go into Sanji's backstory, we see the psychological damage that he suffered as a child, and the fact that all these men in his life have diminished him to worse than trash, and he's been abused for so long of his life. And the only figures that actually gave him worth meaning was Zeph, his mother who died, and Reiju, who barely, if we're going to be honest, Reiju watched all of this happen. So mainly Zeph is that one man that gave Sanji that worth and that meaning. So as a result, the Straw Hats are on the line, and then Zeph is on the line as well. Sanji is cornered, and it's like, the man who gave me life and the Straw Hats who gave me meaning, they're all being threatened by this immovable force that is Big Mom. So as a result, you see him go right back into that mode of, oh, this is my duty. This is the only thing I can do. I have to go back to what I used to be. And in a way, Baratie was kind of a trap for Sanji because he really had a dream, but like Morj mentioned, that's not really what he wanted to do, was stay in Baratie. So all of that happening, I think Oda wrote it in a way where Sanji had no other choice but to behave in the manners that he did. But a lot of people don't like it because it's not necessarily something that they would do. But I feel like a lot of people ignore the psychology of the situation with Sanji.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I agree, but I also agree with Briggs. I think that's the point, though. Like what he was saying. Like I think we're supposed to hate it. We're supposed to be mad at it. Like
I didn't hate it at all. I don't believe that's what the case was. I think you're supposed to be empathetic with Sanji in the situation and understand his character.
Well, I mean, I think going off what Jay's saying, I think like Nami is how you might feel. Like Nami's there. I think she portrays how you might feel if you're just watching this without full like insight into Sanji's brain. But I think Luffy's reaction is more so how we, the reader, are actually supposed to be
exactly.
Taking it. Yeah, because Luffy understands on that next level, basically, that everything Sanji's doing right now is because there is some other reason, and Luffy usually doesn't even care about whatever that other reason is, but he understands that this isn't really what he wants, basically. Like the same way he understood back in Baratie, pretty much.
I agree with you guys on that, but like for the casual viewer that's just going through the story, they're not going to be thinking that deep, man. Like when I read it, I was not thinking that. I was upset because he was hitting his captain, and I think that's what a lot of people feel. Like I've talked to a lot of people about it, and a lot of people feel the same way. I think going back and like looking at it from like a critical standpoint, yeah, it makes 100% 100%. I agree with you, but like just going through it casually, I don't think that's what people would feel.
Yeah, I didn't even mean it like that.
I think it's natural to feel both. I think it's really natural to feel both. You hate to see it. I was very upset with Sanji in those moments, and I understand why he was doing it. But at the same time, because I understand why he's doing it, I have a little bit of empathy for him. So I think it's completely normal to be upset at him. It's like you really do feel like you're a member of the crew because you understand why Sanji's doing what he's doing. He wants to protect his crew, his friends, Zeph, the one man who was there for him. But at the same time, it's like he's going through the motions once again, where he's putting like his debt and his friends all in front of like his own dreams, right, and his own thing. And the fact that he doesn't believe in his crew at this point is obviously upsetting. Like we've seen time and time again, Luffy defy the odds and like save the people closest to him. So I do wish obviously that Sanji trusted in his captain more. I think so. I understand there should be a little bit of empathy, but also being upset.
Yeah, and I think what you just said is like goes back to what Morj was saying about how Oda wrote it, like the timeline of him writing it, like. Like Morj was saying, he doesn't necessarily think that Oda was taking into consideration the things in between it. So like, because that was like my biggest argument too. When I was upset with the situation, like when I would talk to Jay and stuff, I would always mention that like, well, we've seen like this, like, but maybe Morj is onto something. Maybe Oda just already had it pre-planned. It wasn't really taking into consideration what would come in between it.
Yeah, and can I just say real quick that basically, like, just because, like, I don't even think it has anything to do with, like, critical or looking deeper, because, like, just because an author wants you to take something a certain way, like, even if we are supposed to be viewing it from the way Luffy's viewing it, which is that Luffy understands that it's all justified or whatever, that doesn't mean that the author necessarily succeeds in doing so. You know what? Like, you know what I mean?
True.
Like,
no,
just because the author wants you to take it a certain way doesn't mean that he set up the situation in a way that you would actually feel. Like, you can still feel that, like, well, I still think that based on everything we've seen so far, Sanji should have more faith in the captain. And I think that's fair. I think Oda just wanted us to feel more so what Luffy's feeling.
No, that makes 100%. Yeah, that makes 100% sense. I agree with you 100% on that. I do believe that sometimes the author may want us to feel something we don't feel. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside perspective, like when you look at, let's say, from like the whole Sanji, like, you know, hitting like Luffy, obviously when you say the comparisons of similarities to what happened with Robin, like Robin obviously didn't lay a hand on Luffy, but turning their back and stuff on everything and, you know, trying to get her back was one thing. But you could look at like Robin was at 0 and then gain a positive out of the whole thing on his lobby, where it's with Sanji in that moment, he took a step back into going from negative to going back to zero. Like, we already knew what Sanji was as a character, what he means to the Straw Hats, you know, how much he cares for Luffy and everything. But for that moment, it's like he took a step back. How are you going to get back afterwards? And I think with Luffy's thing, he really challenged him. Like with Robin, it's like, tell me you want to live. Where it's like with him, you actually had to smack him, but like tell him like, yo, like this is what you want. You want to leave us and everything. No, you gotta tell me what you really want. And just to get that, and then of course forming of the cake and everything, is what culminated from him going from taking a step back in the viewership of, let's say, a casual fan or even the critics when they look at it, and he's now back to the character that we all know and love. It doesn't have to always be add a positive to the character. How do you break somebody and bring them back together afterwards? I think it's also another fascinating concept that Oda kind of worked with for this arc.
That's why I think he always had those deep insecurities, and he was always flawed. It just took this, like, it wasn't that it took that amount of time for him to break. It just took something coming up where the people he cared about were at risk again, and that was brought back up for him to break and I guess lose a point in that regard. But then that also sets himself up to come back and push through that and gain even more points going forward. The ending where he looks to Judge and says, "Don't call me your son. Your son went out to sea and died however many years ago." And then in the same way, where like when Sanji left, he said like, "I'm not your father. Like you're dead to me," type of thing. It was such a great moment where he completely got over his past, and again is going to chase his dreams and go back to his journey with his friends afterwards.
For sure. And I
don't know if you guys touched on this yet about it's like a criticism people have about how Sanji was concerned that Big Mom was going to kill Zeph and them, right? And I don't know if you guys touched on that yet, but I don't know if in the story at some point, I don't remember if they had mentioned it afterwards. I don't think they did. If that was ever resolved, or maybe Oda just set that aside. If that's like a plot point that could come back into play in the future. Personally, I kind of doubt it, but
it was more Judge and that. And go ahead.
Go ahead, Briggs. I was
gonna say it was more Judge and like Germa that was holding Zeph hostage, not so much Big Mom. I felt so after Sanji like saving them despite like him like treating him like trash his entire life and pretty much throwing him like not treating him as a son, right? And regretting the fact that he was even born in the first place. Him saving them regardless. I feel like at that point they're not going to go and kill Zeph. Also, Big Mom is way too preoccupied with everything going on, right?
With Luffy, yeah, okay.
Sure. Yeah, I think another thing too, people kind of forget too, is like the themes also as well with like, with Sanji, like he came from a family that had genetic differences. Like he was truly like the human of that family, and of course within the crew he's like the most humanish. I know everyone has their own gimmick and everything, but just to see like how he was able to like hold his own resolve even though it was slowly breaking away and stuff, and had so many other challenges that were coming towards him. Like again, he still viewed his family as family even though he shouldn't, like he didn't have that love for them, but still understand and realize they are family. But I think even just like the themes as well, I think were like one of the things that really like hit home, that like this is like what his character was supposed to be, like what we know and love, and seeing the other side of like his other quote unquote family, and just seeing that they are everything that he detests, everything he despises, to see him actually like still keep what his mom left behind for him towards even the end of that arc, to go back to again from negative to zero. I think it's an underappreciated thing from Sanji during during Whole Cake.
I think GrandLine actually wanted to say something. We haven't heard from him yet, so I don't know if he's still here.
I like Sanji and the things he does. That is all.
Hey man, keeping it short and sweet. So I want to talk about this briefly because the other day it got brought to my attention by some of the people in my chat, and I kind of talked to GrandLine and Laz about this a little bit before I started recording. But some of the viewers, I was live streaming. Jay was there with me. I think Driss was there as well, and we were just talking about the chapter, stuff like that. And some of the viewers in the chat brought it to my attention that they have an issue with like some of the power scaling conversations. And then we had like this long drawn out conversation about it with them. But I just kind of want to hear from like other people in the community, like how do you guys feel about power scaling in One Piece, like in general, like as far as not like, and when I ask this question, I don't mean in the sense of in the story, like but I mean in the sense of just power scaling conversation. Do you feel like it's necessary at times, or how do you guys feel about it? Because from what they were telling me, they just don't, like, they're at a point now they don't really want to hear it anymore. And I just feel like, for me personally, like, I feel like sometimes it is necessary, but I'm just curious what you guys feel about it.
I mean, it has a time and place, man, honestly. Like, once we're in the fights, that's when I think it's going to start to matter. When it's dealing with the actual, like, story aspects, just the information that we need to know. The last thing I need to know is how strong is this guy? Can he actually deadlift this? Like, I don't need to know any of that when we're getting stuff for, like, ties to voice into or flashbacks or whatever it is. Unless it's, like, the Yonkos are going at each other, okay, but it has the main part of that chapter. If it's the fight, okay, then there you go. But if that's not what I was trying to go with and it's more story based, then unless you're reading the story completely wrong, then you should know what you're getting into these chapters and you know what you're supposed to be expecting. So I think power scaling, it has a time and place. When it's a fight going on, then you can talk about it. Again, I don't really like talking too much about it because it's so toxic at this point. It's like, I'm just here just to see the conclusions of things being done and just not having to, like, deal with, like, you know, who's strong, who could do this, like, I don't need to know that. I like the build up to even then with Wano to get to the things we want to see. I feel like it's starting to fizzle out a little bit, and I just need the fights now before I'm just done with it.
Yeah, to touch on that just a little bit for everyone else answers, just a little bit of context. The thing that we kind of came to the conclusion when we were talking to each other on the stream is like you said, there's a time and place, and like we're in a area of the arc where there's going to be a lot of fights. And like we're talking about the current chapter, and if it wasn't a super drawn out fight, but there was a clash. And, like everyone knows, you know, with Alti and Luffy at page 1, and then Yamato comes in, and it's like, so like when we're talking about the chapter itself, when we get to that point, it's like sometimes power scaling conversation may come up. So it's like, I agree 100% with you, Laz. I feel like it's not something that needs to happen consistently, but like I feel like it is necessary at times. Like it's really hard to like not mention it at all if the main part of a chapter that we're discussing is a fight, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it doesn't help too with Oda, and I feel like he's notorious for doing this, I think, a lot post time skip, but he has this thing where he runs away from the fight, which I like, you know, he'll start something and then he'll segue into a conversation. It's like, why can't you just finish what you started? You know, like if I'm getting, let's say, for example, the Sanji page 1 stuff, which is a good indicator to see, you know, where, you know, Kaido's crew is really in the whole spectrum and stuff, to not show me the outcome of what's going on. What was the point of even showing me in the first place when obviously we know they're trying to get away and everything, but this is a good time to actually show them fighting. Like,
he showed you everything you need to know. Like Sanji
but I'm saying, like, at least give me the closure.
Like, seeing the end of that fight would have just been like wasted pages, in my opinion.
I mean, but then it's like now you have the conversation of people asking, well, can Zoro and Sanji compete against the likes of King and Queen? And I think a majority of you guys would probably say no, because they're in a completely different league compared to the Flying Six and the rest of the their headliners. I think seeing a moment like that, especially knowing that page 1 is a Flying Six member, is one of those where, okay, he has that stepping stone to where, okay, he can actually compete against Queen.
Well,
so
Laz, we did see it. We noticed. Laz, are you saying that because of what Ulti? Are you saying because of the clash with Ulti and Luffy that the Flying Six have kind of been put like on a higher pedestal now, right? Given that
since now we're getting more of them and everything, I think now, should be doing that.
Because, and Husu might end up being Zoro's opponent if he's the strongest of them, right? Because Luffy should be stronger after Udon, right? He's definitely like his whatever Gear 4th could do back in Dressrosa. I think he should be a lot stronger now, given how used to it Luffy should be, right? Yeah, in my opinion, right? What do you say?
I was gonna say, because my view is a little bit differently how I look at the Flying Six compared to others, because I have the monster trio where it's Luffy's gonna face Kaido, Zoro's gonna face King, Queen's gonna get Sanji, and again, this is I'm looking towards the end game of the story, and doesn't necessarily mean everyone has to be commander level, but you would think that when we ever get to the chance of facing Blackbeard for the majority part of his crew, and I'm saying like the the fleet captains and all that, they're gonna be at least around the level of a commander. So you would think if it's gonna be Straw Hats versus Blackbeard Pirates, they're going to have to at least have some kind of middle ground where it's not like completely overblown where you need a 2v1 or 3v1 or something. So I've always felt that the Flying Six would be a good matchups for the other remaining Straw Hats as their way to kind of bridging themselves to go up to the next stage, especially since I consider that this is the Endy's lobby of post time skip where the rest of the crew are going to finally showcase that they are on that next level. They really haven't gotten the chance to showcase it all together, but now being this actual moments in the Flying Six representing that. So when Luffy was facing Ulti in page 1, I was a little kind of worried there, is that if he knocks him out of the arc, that's less opposition for them to face and really showcase that they are ready for that next stage. So that's kind of how I viewed it.
think your assumptions about the Wano matchups are pretty dangerous to make, like Luffy versus Kaido, Zoro versus King, Sanji Queen. I don't think it's quite going to turn out that straightforwardly, just with all of the other players we have going on here.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to be straight up Luffy versus Kaido. I think, obviously, we know Kid, Log, and I will all have those factors in, but I feel like, even though I know it's a stepping stone kind of thing, I mean, we've seen Luffy handle his own against Katakuri, so it's going to be, again, a combined effort, but I don't think he needs that step back to go forward.
Can I ask you, would your opinion be different if you had literally seen Sanji defeat Page 1 versus, you know, what we have now? We know he did, we just didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know he did, but I just like to see it. Like, actually see, like, actually, oh, he actually defeated him. Like, instead of the whole, like, just cut away from it. That's, like, my only thing. I don't like the cutaways. When you start something like,
you considered that we have not seen that much clear power scaling recently, because it goes towards my agenda, which is that this is not the final battle, and that they will fail here, and that there is still time for us to see the strides get stronger over the course of the arc, in which case it's in Oda's best interest to not show us exactly what happens with Sanji versus Page 1, basically. Just saying. That's basically
I always think that you've got to conserve his chapters and his panels at this point. Like, it's going to be a behemoth of an arc, and like I'm assuming if it's not going to be like the big fight Sanji versus someone, like Sanji's going to fight someone obviously, but if it's not the main fight for him, it's like he's not going to give it attention. It just win or lose, whatever. I also just very, very, very much don't care about power scaling at all. I kind of zoned out as you guys got into that.
Really? You don't care at all? You don't have any fun thinking
it's so funny, like, talking about
Oda.
It's so
Oda doesn't give a fuck about power scaling. I don't know if we should either.
I think he does, because here's my view on it, right? So like, power scaling, I think, just gets like a bad rap because it's kind of just like, you know, you can get too much into like, okay, this guy's power level 9,000, this guy's 9,001. The power scaling is really important, I think, to like one big aspect of what makes One Piece so exciting. Like, why was Marineford so hype? Marineford was so hyped because we had seen over and over the course of the Grand Line that, like, okay, there's lots of characters that Luffy is clearly not even in the same, like, ballpark. Like, he's not even allowed in the parking lot of the ballpark. Like, he's so far off from some of these characters. And we saw that over and over, that, like, characters like Admirals or a Mihawk or a Doflamingo are just, like, way out of his league, right? So
I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome when you expand, like, even the first time we see Mihawk, we see how far Luffy and Zoro is. So in that case, I do agree that power scaling is cool, but I'm not there sitting like, oh my god, he needs to fight this person so that when he wins, he's closer to their level and like carrying that.
You even have characters. You even have characters in the story that power scale in a way, right? Where they're like, oh man, it's King, or oh man, it's Shichibukai, or certain members. Oh, you know, it's Whitebeard, it's the strongest man in the world. He's going to destroy this place, you know, stuff like that. It's not clear cut, but you clearly see how through the eyes of some characters based on their dialogue.
Yeah, they understand how. Power scaling, dude. Like, I mean, even just any group that the Straw Hat faces, the first thing Oda does, or one thing he'll do before they actually fight them, is make sure it's clear, like, okay, who's 1 through 3, then who's like the next batch and stuff like that. Like Baroque Works, we got a full rundown 1 through like 12 or something like that. CP9, same thing.
I guess that's fair.
Even Katakuri's introduction, like Capone was like shaking in his boots, right? Like he knew the gap.
Yeah, I think
between them, and they were like, if this guy gets in the way, right, this is gonna mess up our entire plan. Like they were so confident, but the introduction of one character shifted the power balance.
See, I agree. This is where my definition of it is like there's definitely a power like spectrum. I feel like, but it's just like it's hard for me, and I don't know how it is for you guys, because everyone, like, perception is key because everyone perceives things differently. But for me, it's like so difficult, like when I'm trying to analyze things, to like create a like clear cut like power system. Like it's just like you can try your hardest, but there's so many different variables involved. Like for me, in my opinion, that it's like it just becomes very difficult to like have distinct titles for like certain characters. Like it's hard to put them under umbrellas. So it's like
that's what I love about One Piece though. Like the bounty system and even this like the tiering of characters, it doesn't necessarily always equate to strength. Some of them are overblown. I love not knowing. I love not knowing.
It just like capitalize on the threat that they possess and stuff. The higher the bounty, the more danger that they bring towards them.
So that's why I think like it's like
here's the real life aspect of this. Like if you watch tennis, does Roger Federer, despite being the best player for the last 20 years, does he win every single match? No.
Nope.
And that's real life. And I think Odo plays
That's not actually. That's cap. All right, go
Federer
ahead.
is the goal, but
Cap.
Yeah,
Federer's the goat, but
Federer Yonko level confirmed.
Absolutely.
Federer is Whitebeard basically.
Go. I take Roger.
I mean,
I say Nadal
he
is
can be
Whitebeard.
beaten though.
Nadal is definitely Whitebeard.
Cheeky.
Like Nadal is not Whitebeard.
Nadal is
he can
definitely
get himself
Whitebeard.
to-
What do you?
No.
He's like, no.
This is gonna turn into intense debates. I love it.
I feel like people would be very upset if they came up with an elaborate plan to kill Kaido and a bunch of people did it, because that would mean that Luffy's still like there's no power scaling, like that he's that much closer to becoming Yonko level. I feel like
And they're gonna be upset because they keep viewing this series through a power scaling system rather than a
and it's not what
story.
it's about, man.
Dude,
Like, obviously it's there, but
though you want to see the main character progress and improve through the world, right? It's the same way if I watched a story about a basketball player, I'd want to see.
We will, but it doesn't mean it has to be through like raw strength alone.
But
and it doesn't need to be
about,
right
like,
now either. I have so much patience with One Piece, my guys.
He wants to be strong. He wants to be able to protect the things he cares about. He views strength as necessary to his goals. So, like, I think he will.
No,
improve
that's
in many
part of
ways.
it. It's not everything.
Oh, I agree. It's not everything. I definitely agree. It's not everything, and I agree with you that that's where power scaling gets, dicey, and it can overtake like a lot of other more important elements of the story. But at the same time, like, it's a shonen. We're watching a character who most likely is going to be top 1, maybe top 5 or something like that by the end of the story. Like, to me, that progression is very important. It's this. I view his progression as strength as part of his progression towards becoming Pirate King. So I care about that part of the story.
Definitely.
But we get to see that progression in legit every arc. It bothers me when people are upset when he doesn't take out a massive threat, because it's like, oh, if he did that, he would have been that much closer to being his goal. It's like, it's slow and steady. It's One Piece, boys.
Yeah,
He's also got a very different path towards reaching his various goals. Like, he's an emperor now. He didn't get there through the standard emperor path of being super strong and holding tons of territory, but he still got there. And I think that's how he'll become the Pirate King as well. By the end of the series, I don't even think Luffy will be top 5 in terms of strength.
Oh, really?
So,
I agree, GrandLine.
So-
Completely agree.
my argument would be.
Quotes that suggested otherwise, but you can see.
Depends who's left, right? Like,
That's where I'm trying to go. What Morj said, you have to take Luffy's quotes into account when we're talking about this. So Luffy specifically said, in order for me to be the Pirate King, I have to beat Big Mom, Kaido, and even Shanks. And he knows he's gonna have to meet up with them at one point. And if you look at Roger, if he's chasing the same title as Roger did, Roger was the undisputed king of the sea. And I'm assuming that he's had to battle with every single one of the Yonko in order to reach that goal as well.
I think he was the undisputed king of the sea just because he found the One Piece, man. And I feel like a lot of the times with the big arcs, like Enies Lobby wasn't toppled just because of Luffy,
No,
Like,
it's
there's
not going to be just because of Luffy, but a big point made throughout Enies Lobby that Luffy was saying himself was, I realized this arc that I need to be stronger. If I'm not capable of beating anybody that's put in front of us, then my crew is going to be in danger. And that was the dialogue that was going back and forth between him and Lucci throughout their entire fight. That's the first thing he says to Bluno when he like showcases Gear Second.
Yeah, of course. Every arc he's gonna get stronger and keep on pushing to become one of the strongest in the series. And I think by the end he's gonna be an absolute threat. Right?
So from what I'm hearing is that you guys are like kind of circling the kind of the same ballpark. I feel like we're all in agreement that Luffy's strength progression is important to him. Like, correct? Are we all agreeing that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just feel like some of you feel as if it doesn't have to be rushed, and which I agree. We all agree, and I think that's what is most important, that his strength progression is important. But
yes. I think if it's rushed, I genuinely think if it's rushed, the series will go to shit, much like other shonen where they keep on adding these crazy. Like, I'm not even a big fan of like Gear 4, to be honest. But what I love right now is the fact that he realized Gear 4 wasn't enough, and he's learning these techniques in order to get through what's called Kaido scales, and using using hockey to do it and stuff like that. Because those are the type of powers and power scaling I love. I hate when they just get a huge power boost, take on, like, if you were to just get a huge power boost and take out Kaido, I'd be so upset,
Yeah, I mean, I agree if Luffy took out like Kaido today or something, I personally would really dislike that. Like, it has to be paced at a reasonable.
And believable enough where it's like, okay, fine, but that's gonna require a little bit more time still. But
speaking of getting rushed, do you guys think that because of I know this is something that Dritz has spoken about, but like, do you guys think because of the manga sales and stuff? Personally, I think it's only because of Demon Slayer, because One Piece is now back like at number 2 above everything else, even though sales aren't as high as they used to be. But do you think that Oda feels pressured? I know it's One Piece, but do you think he feels pressured to speed up Wano a little bit?
Well, I mean, there was a thing that was said. I think Dritz, you talked about before. I don't know. I haven't seen the editor comments, but apparently something about he got a new editor now instead of Naito, which is usually a massive thing for those who understand with the industry. Like, having a new editor can change a lot of things, where things can like move quicker, move slower. Because a lot of the things that Oda probably would want to do, again, has to go by the editor. And if he makes that one change or something, it probably takes a step back or a step forward to what he wants to do. So I think we'll probably only see, I guess, in the coming chapters if there's going to be any significant difference in the way the pace of the arc has been going. Because if you're to track it from 909 to where we are now, there has definitely been a slow build to things. So maybe with this new editor coming in now, things will start to progress to what he wants to finally do, because now he has that freedom.
The reason I say that is because in terms of whether he's going to speed it up or not is with the new editor, it's just, when is he going to make that change, you know, in terms of a dramatic change in the direction of the story? Because so much is already built upon things he's already established that it feels like, see, the thing is, what Wano is that a lot of people have said that this arc is going to be one of the longest arcs in One Piece, right? And if he feels pressured based on the sales, right, it's one thing if the arc was a shorter arc, right, where it wouldn't really matter if you changed some things up to make it go a little faster. But if this arc was already in tension based on things he was setting up here and there, right, there's still a lot that we have not touched upon, especially with Zoro and his past, that we still need, at least, my opinion is that we need another 1.5 to 2 years left of Wano, especially because like he had taken a little bit of time to slow the story down because of everything that was going on in terms of like the health in Japan with the I don't want to say what was going on because they'll, you know, demonetize the video, but it kind of seemed like it was slowing the story down. That people were saying, yeah, we don't know how much longer this arc is going to go on for because of taking a break every other week and stuff, right? And now we're back to the usual setting, but it's looking like we might, you know, given the rise in certain things, that we might be back to that at some point again until there's a vaccine and stuff. So I'm just wondering if Oda feels that his sales are being impacted by Wano, right? That this was the arc he's been longing to draw and tell the story of, right? And it's doing the worst of all his other arcs, it would seem. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what it seems like. It's probably shocking him, right? It's probably shocking him that people don't like it, right? For whatever reason.
He's got to have known that, like, if you're writing an arc which has more stuff than anything else before, right? Like, if he's planning in the first place to write a backstory like Odin's backstory, where you're cutting away from your main characters for, you know, multiple volumes, like, or was it one volume? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But like, you're just cutting away from everything that readers are kind of used to, to focus on a lot of other things like scabbards and stuff. If you're just generally building a bigger story, he must have known that it's going to affect his sales in a certain way, but the idea is that the payoff or everything that it's building towards is going to be...
I ask where we're getting this like sales stuff from, because I'm looking at some data now, and like 2019 sales were like up from 2018. So
yeah, but if you compare it to like the rise of Kimetsu no Yaiba, which broke like all-time records,
that was an absurd like lightning in a bottle scenario. Like One Piece has remained consistent
too, right?
One Piece definitely had the consistency stuff, but like in terms of that much of an impact like that, in terms of like a sale number, maybe not in terms of like, you know, critical story and everything like that. Like, I don't think we're gonna see anything like that what Yaiba did. And I think even for Oda, like, obviously I think he isn't probably too pressured, but I think he has to feel that if things start to slow down more, I think Jump's gonna expect more out of him, especially when you look at the lack of competition. Like, even though we have like My Hero, Haikyuu, those other series, they're not going to give the bread and butter kind of sales that what One Piece does and what Yaiba was doing for the time being. So I think he'll be probably pressured by the magazine to start like really picking things up, even if it might mean like, you know,
I don't know. When you're the third highest selling comic book in the world, I don't think Oda's feeling that.
Yeah, I think Oda gets special treatment, but I think that as a mangaka, he definitely has that competitive nature in him still, right? Like, I know he wanted to finish One Piece. Said, hopefully in 5 years, which probably means like 6 or 7. But now I think it's going to be 8. But I think that he said he wanted to end it soon. He still had that drive in him to still be the best. Like, he apparently had like a decade-long run as number 1 or something, and to like lose that spot, I think that definitely said something to him, right? And I don't know about what GrandLine had said about the sales. I'm not that familiar with it. I think Dritz is more familiar with it than I am, you know, because
Dritz has his own agenda for being familiar with the sales.
Morj, what are you implying? Morj, what are you implying?
The sales are bad, the story sucks. Apparently.
No, the story's been suck.
Apparently, the story of One Piece has always been fantastic, except in 2011, where sales were like at their lowest. What was happening back then? Was that like
2011? Wasn't that like Marine?
Or didn't they go on a break? Right? Didn't they go on
Marine-
hiatus?
Yeah.
How long did One Piece go on a hiatus after?
It was a 1 month break.
1 month.
Oh, 4 weeks,
So was that what hurt it? I don't know.
I don't think so because it still had
would've
super
been
high
peak
sales.
time, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like even when Attack on Titan was on its high, it was still doing like 11, 12 million volumes, and it slowly started going down by like half a million.
Apologies, I was looking at the wrong year. One Piece sold 38 million volumes in
There you go.
2011. Which is a
The market hype was real.
I feel
Okay.
like when One Piece ends, assuming it maintains this current level of quality or whatever, I feel like when One Piece ends, because I know a big boost in Kimetsu Yaiba's sales are because the manga is coming to an end, right? So I feel like when the series ends, it would probably have an unprecedented like sales year.
I agree.
Blow up probably every other series that's ever existed. I would.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest reasons why people don't read One Piece is because it's so long, and you're like, okay, well, if I start reading, then I'm gonna eventually catch up, and that's gonna be a bummer. So I think that keeps a lot of people held back, or a lot of people might not necessarily have caught up to Fishman Island or whatever, and realize, okay, there's a lot of story left, and then they're gonna come back to like when it gets hype again, like Wano or some other climactic fight at the end of the story, and that's they're gonna go.
Can you imagine someone picking One Piece up after it ends and just binging it? Like, that might be like the greatest story they've ever read.
I mean, as long as they never got spoiled by it, because I feel like even like a story like One Piece,
I got
especially
spoiled.
late game,
I got spoiled on like everything, and I still loved everything about One Piece. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. I like certain stuff, like Apes' death and stuff like that. I already knew about, but it still hit me. Like, I still teared up, even though I already knew about it. Like, and now I'm not saying everyone's gonna read it the same way I do, but I think in a way, like, it matters, but not as much as what people might think. Like, I think people will still enjoy it just as much. But I'm just like thinking, because I just like, I binged from beginning to Wano, and I fell completely in love. I'm just imagining, like, if it stays consistent, like Morj said, like, how amazing would that be, coming into it fresh and just binging it all the way through? Like, I wonder what that experience will be like. Of course, I'll never know because I'm caught up now, but
Well, I mean, you could take a break. I mean, dude, honestly, one of the things that I felt, especially over the course of Wano, was like, if I wasn't stuck so far in this YouTube hole where like I'm getting One Piece like stuff, content, like from other people, Twitter, etc., from everywhere, I got to make my videos and stuff. If I could just stop it all for like a little bit and then just take like a 5-year break, at least be able to binge Wano, like just not touch One Piece at all, just be able to binge Wano straight and get like a fresh perspective, or binge the rest of the series straight. I would love to do that.
yeah, that'd be
It's just
awesome.
not an option anymore.
Yeah, I'm just at such a pivotal point in my like channel growth that I just don't want to stop. Like, so like I'm also in the same boat where like most of my content, basically all of my content is One Piece related, so like it would be hard for me to just stop, but I think that would be so awesome to do.
I kind of have the opposite perspective. I mean, I understand it, but I'm in love with the weekly lifestyle of like the spoiler, and then
Well, not the spoilers, but yeah.
translation.
I'll say it's weird for me then, because like if I went, but like it shifts from time to time. Like I remember when I was reading Marineford week to week, where literally like every chapter was something that like blew your mind, like the Ace death, and then Whitebeard versus Akainu, and then Blackbeard's here, and then Whitebeard dies, and then Blackbeard's got his fruit, and then Shanks is like, that was probably the best time ever to be like a One Piece weekly reader. And like there are times that I was like, man, I'm so glad that I'm getting to like get this back to back. Like every single week is like an amazing week. So there's times that I'm like that, and I feel like towards the end of Wano I'm gonna feel like that again. But then like right now where it's like, oh, I want to get there, I'm kind of like, man, I wish I could just like wait, forget about One Piece, like take it off my mind for like a year somehow, like wipe it away, and then like be able to just binge it all through. You know what I mean?
That's what
I think even just the weekly experience too, at the same time, it's like the discussions are such a huge thing too, because if you go back to me, let's say Marine for 10 years ago, when like the communities weren't as massive as they are right now, where like every other channel is talking about One Piece, and like you're reading through Marineford, and the only thing you can really do is go on a forum and read somebody's comments on it. Whereas so now you actually get to make videos, talk to other content creators about it, and just have that discussion about even like the smallest of things that happen in a chapter. So I think even that's why I kind of stick around with it, because there's always something to talk about. Even if I don't do an analysis video, if I'm not doing some kind of like, just a review or whatever it is, even just through reactions, just talking about my feelings, raw feelings, just what's going on, and then talking to other people about it upon finishing the chapter, is one of those reasons why I just stick with the weekly experience. If I could get the chance to binge it, I think it would be lovely, but as Morj was saying, once you're so deep into like the whole of like One Piece, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is, you'll just find your way into like getting some kind of like conversation about One Piece, even if that's not your intention. You're trying to stay away from it.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, like to go back on what Joy Boy was saying, like just watching him. Like I'm sure most of you probably follow him on Twitter, but it's so hilarious when spoilers come out. Watching him tweet. Because like you can just tell like Joy Boy like literally gets tickled by like every little thing, like so he like.
Well, see, everything. It's like 3 chapters in 1 week because like things change and my perspective of things change, and it's an event. I like it.
He's like,
I am not creative.
Joy Boy, dude, when spoilers come out, it never fails. Like when spoilers come out, like just expect that Joy Boy tweet. Joy Boy's like, "Hey guys, spoilers are out,"
That's why I know to get out of here,
Yeah, it's so difficult. I feel like for some people that like aren't like that don't read the spoilers to not be spoiled. Like it's
bro. I never see One Piece on my timeline. 'Cause I have every keyword muted.
The same, yeah. It's tough because you can't even mute like images or nothing. Because as soon as that chapter is out, within a minute, if you don't read the chapter,
when Marco got revealed, like everyone on Twitter is just dropping Marco gifs everywhere. Like,
someone DM me a picture. It's like, really? I have everything muted. I don't get spoiled anymore. It's amazing. And every once in a while, when something big finally happens, I get random DMs or people come into my chat when I'm streaming. I'm like, dude, there's a reason why I don't make One Piece content. Like I love One Piece. I'm enjoying it as a fan.
I was in a Twitch chat. And Jay was streaming on Twitch. I'm in his Twitch chat. We're just chilling. He's playing like FIFA or something. Like we're just talking or whatever. And when Jay streams, we just chill into Discord and talk or whatever while he's streaming. And I'm just in the chat, and someone just comes in the chat unprovoked and just says, Luffy fights all through this chapter and Yamato shows up. Like just show completely unprovoked. Like,
yeah, I don't get
why?
it.
Why?
I want to watch the world burn.
Why?
It's it's just dangerous times,
I think
man.
some people, I think some people get off on that. They just want to they do it to Roger's base. I know they do it to other people.
To Brago,
they done to Brago. They just want to just
they do it
that
to me as well. Yeah.
Like I know there are people if you disrespect them or something, right? Like whether you something that they say that you don't respond to their comments when they put on your video or on Twitter, they will literally like if you block them or mute them, they'll literally make a second channel. If your DMs are open, they'll send you spoilers, or they'll like comment the spoiler right in your comment section.
Yeah,
I got those locked.
I had my first experience of that the other day. I had to block someone on Twitter just because they were just being really insensitive about like stuff that's going on in like real life, and I just had to get the negativity off of my feed, so I blocked them, and then like someone sent me a screenshot, and they're like, him and some other guy that were like following me or whatever, like, yeah, F Sensei, like screw him, whatever. And then later on they come in my Discord because I had them blocked on Twitter. They come on my Discord and they're like, hey bro, I'm sorry, I just wanted your attention, I feel like if that's happening to me on my small scale, like I could only imagine how much it happens to like guys like Brago, GrandLine, like Joy Boy, like
it's only going to get worse, my friend.
I've actually seen the reverse where there I'm not gonna name a name, but there's someone that he doesn't like people reacting to the fan translations of chapters early. Like there's a certain part of the community that is very sensitive about not reading the official, right? Like they're like radical on that. And there's someone that literally, bro, I had to like unfollow because he was like calling out certain people saying that he's gonna report their channels, he's gonna report their tweets and stuff like that. Yeah, if you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, bro, this is crazy. Like I said, why would you do something like that? Like if you don't like it.
You can give me their ads and I can block them. So.
No, it's good. We don't need to throw drama.
Let's not do it on the podcast. If you guys want to talk,
no. I'm in under the table.
Oh yeah,
I'm not gonna name it because I'm not trying to get someone come at me, bro.
I don't want that. I don't want that stigma on my podcast.
Exactly, right. So, but like, yeah, bro, like he legit, and then people understand, yeah, bro, like, we should come at these people. I'm like, bro, that's just wild. Like, you got people that like put a lot of time into it. I know that they have a point about reading it illegally, but the thing is, like, Oda's not losing any money. And personally, the story that Oda writes, I know we can't always put that on the author because it's just a story, but I don't know if Oda himself, I've never heard in an interview that Oda himself personally cares. I know the people that are trying to make as much money as they can, right? Lawyers, people like that, they're the ones that care, right? Maybe Shueisha cares, but Oda himself, bro, I don't think that he cares. Right, Oda apparently even in an interview to encourage people to catch up however they can. Right, I feel like he hinted saying like, catch up however you can, skip, do whatever you have to do so you don't get spoiled. Because he said that I don't want you to get spoiled by waiting, so do what you have to do. Right, with his story, because I guess he feels like a part of reading One Piece is the mystery, and so if you don't want, for example, there are people out there, I don't think people realize this, that can't afford. I know it doesn't seem like much money, but they just can't afford it or don't have that kind of access. So some people like that, not all of them, obviously, let me excuse for some people, but they'll read it illegally for that reason, right?
Well, manga is really expensive. Like,
yeah.
If I
yeah,
I think about my
$100 a month though.
Like I think about my brothers in Africa, right? My African brothers, right? Like some of them got money, right? Some of them got cash. I'm not trying to like stereotype all of them, but the ones that don't, they're like in the villages and shit, like I feel like they have a right. Like the story's about freedom, right? And I don't know how you can read One Piece and not want them to have access to Oda's story, right? Are they supposed to wait till 30 years they get a good job? They're gonna read the manga, like just binge it when they can finally afford to read it. I don't think Oda has a capitalist. Like I don't know if Oda's capitalist. What are you gonna say?
I was going to say, I think most of us have definitely been in that situation. Like, I work in the arts, so there was a period of time where I had no money whatsoever. And I don't begrudge people reading scans, even though we are kind of propagating an illegal industry, because they're making a ton of money off ad revenue from our views.
Definitely, yeah.
But that aside, I don't think it's a problem until you actively start spoiling them. If you, say, have a giant YouTube platform, for example.
That's true.
That's when I think it becomes an issue.
I think one of the things is like it's I mean I'm a dirty scans reader, right? But like I still pay my subscription to Viz because I want access to all of the things, and it's only $2 a month. So I mean, like you were saying, Ragnar, like there's plenty of people who can't afford it, and that's totally fair.
Yeah, bro, I definitely had times where I didn't have $2, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's. I think if you're like comfortable enough that you can afford $2 a month, I think it's just generally a nice thing if you are able to pay that subscription. But then also there's nothing wrong with reading the scans too ahead of time. Basically if you're just doing, you can support the official translation while still like if something's available, still reading it, I guess.
No, but what's funny about this guy that I'm talking about though, right? In his bio it says spoilers, and so he'll talk about the spoilers, right? But he doesn't like people talking about the fan translations, which I just found hypocritical. I didn't understand where it was coming from. So
he'll talk about the spoilers, but he doesn't want people making videos with the fan translations.
Exactly. So that's the main reason I unfollowed, because he was dropping spoilers on the timeline. I'm like, I don't understand how you can have two positions on this. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I feel like spoilers are like a summary. It's not actually like posting panels. It's not actually maybe having read the chapters. He's reading like a summation, like kind of like gossip.
Maybe he's more upset about like people like gaining like revenue from making videos about.
Yeah, that was the tweet actually. He said you guys are making money off of Oda's hard work.
No, but
it's like I don't know, off of illegal activities.
But the tricky thing is that obviously money is a big incentive to do this sort of thing. But for one, most of us started our YouTube channels because we love the series, and it takes a long time to get where you make like actual money. And then two, a large part of why so many people are able to get into this series is because there is like a strong, Western YouTube community that like kind of gets you more hooked on this sort of series. Like, Joyboy, like this is a little weird, but I will say basically, like I have a good friend in real life who I was able to get into One Piece, and he literally watches your videos and he likes getting theory ideas and stuff off of that. Like that's big, and he also watches Tekking's videos too. And like that's a big part of like getting somebody more involved in the series when there's more content that you can follow. And it's just a weird thing where like you can pigeonhole it into basically being like, well, they're just making money off of it, and yeah, we are past a certain point, like past years of work, but then there is also a lot of good and that's coming out of it and getting more people interested into a series that they otherwise wouldn't have tried.
Yeah, and it's not like we're making money off it by distributing it, like we're adding value on top of in terms of discussions and such.
Essentially, we're working. They don't have to pay us to promote their series, which is what's going on.
And then think about the
it's basically like we're working for free in a way, right? They don't realize our worth, but we're kind of like helping them, even if they don't understand that, to promote it into Western culture. Like now you have that.
Take that to Shueisha,
Because the thing is like
One Piece Union.
Our own little government.
Jay, you were saying something. What were you saying, Jay?
Oh no, I'm good.
Are you good? All right. We're coming a little bit past the 2-hour mark, so I have one final question I kind of want to close out with. Thanks to my lovely friend Dritz, gave me this question. Post Wano, what is your guy like anticipation, and like what kind of like headcanon do you have as far as how things are going to play out afterwards?
If this is the Yonko saga, I definitely think we need to close out with Shanks and Blackbeard, and I think that Elbaf plays a huge role if the whole Norse mythology comes into play, right? And so like that'll be basically the place for Norse mythology and Ragnarok and all that stuff, the end of the world, which would be the end of the world as we know it. And it'd be like the next step where I guess Luffy and Blackbeard take center stage. Although I honestly feel like Eustace Kid is someone that Oda has something in store for that will surprise us genuinely. I like what Gio, if you guys know who Gio is, had posted on Twitter. Because I made a video about Shanks and the meaning of a true pirate, and it definitely relates to his particular ideals versus some of the kids and Blackbeards and Zebek's, and then you have Roger, and how Shanks probably learned his lessons of piracy from Roger as a father figure. And the thing is, like, Eustace Kid, and I also Eric of the Red Force podcast, shout out to him. He had actually inspired me to make the video because it was a contrast between Kid not liking being laughed at and stuff, right, and how he reacts to it. And the thing is, like, Gio thinks that Eustace Kid, he's not going to be the son of Zebek, but the thing is, like, in terms of inherited will, Luffy is not Roger's son, right? Ace was. And that's why with Blackbeard, the possibility of him being Zebek's son, it's possible, or he could be simply have inherited the will. But the thing is, maybe Blackbeard is actually Zebek's son, but the person that inherited the will, right, could be Eustace Kid in that way, right? Because the thing is, Zebek wanted all those petty things that Roger had mentioned as he died, fame, fortune, power. I don't think Roger really cared about any of that, right? I think that the freedom part, like Luffy's what mattered. Whereas Eustace Kid, he even mentioned in Udon Prison, right? He says, I'm going to be famous. I want everyone to know me. I feel like someone that's always being laughed at, right? Someone that has red hair and scars like Shanks, right? It's always in Shanks' shadows. Maybe that's why he doesn't like him. He wants to like make his name known. That seems to be something that defines Kid, like a rock star, right? Which his character is kind of based on. If Zebek was somewhat like that, someone that just wanted to be famous and be like the king of the world so everyone would see him, right? If he's not the same as Roger, who wanted to be free, Zebek maybe just wanted the fame and the power. Maybe that's what Kid wants as well. I know that Blackbeard has a particular role in terms of knowledge, right? His quest for knowledge and power and whatever else he really wants. We don't know that yet, but I think
it's
Eustace Kid,
interesting.
I think Eustace Kid is definitely somebody that stands out in terms of what's going to happen after Wano. I don't know about Law, but
yeah, I definitely feel like we have more in store for Kid. I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Kid definitely has gonna have a bigger role. I think they even said too back in Sabaody, like Odo like had him as one of the guys who was gonna have like a big role to play afterwards. Like the other ones, he kind of like had them initially pegged to like be taken out after Sabaody, but now it's like because of their role and stuff, they're gonna actually have more to play. But Kid was one of those where he knew like he had some kind of plan with them. So I do think if there is a time for that, it's probably going to be like within Wano or like the post events of Wano to like really cement himself as one of the next top guys in the story.
For sure. Grand Line, what do you have? What's your anticipations for the end of Wano and what's to come?
My anticipation / headcanon is that Wano is the end of the Yonko saga, and the Shanks and Blackbeard might still exist, but I think that system kind of dissolves in on itself once
I think it'll be abolished, kind of like the warlord system.
Kind of, yeah, but like informally abolished because no one really has the power.
Yeah, for sure.
I just don't think that there will be a full emperor structure, and things are going to be a bit more chaotic in the world.
Huh, okay. I've been hearing that a lot from a few others. Then I kind of could see that I could go on that way. I think like this is like, for me, this is like the closing of like Big Mom and Kaido, and like of just the Yonko system in general. So I kind of agree with that. It's interesting to think about. Joy Boy, what do you got? I know you got something spicy for me. What's your anticipation for the end of Wano?
You know, I kind of think my take is very, very similar to Morj's. I think that the strides lose here, or that the arc is split into 2 parts, and we build into something even more hectic and climactic than we experience here in Wano. Because Kaido's big thing is he wants to start this great war, right?
Yeah.
But the war is him. So I kind of expect at some point for this to turn around and him to start the war, and it can't really be approached in that way.
So do you think it's going to be like a part 1, part 2 thing, or do you think it's going to be like it's going to turn into, this is going to be like a setup for like another arc, another entire?
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to be sure of the details, right? So my general beliefs is that, you know, all the Yonko and the end of Yonko, I agree with all that. Big Mom goes down, Kaido goes down, I think Shanks goes down, and then you have Luffy and Blackbeard, and where we go from there, I'm not entirely sure. But I think that, I don't know, I kind of envision this as of right now, heading into whatever is going on with the Revolutionary Army in Sabo. And so my headcanon for now is that they lose to Kaido. And, you know, there's this theories like, you know, Law saves Luffy's life, kind of like Ivankov did in Marineford, gave him that extra will to fight. And the crew is completely annihilated. And then Kaido, sensing sort of a moment like, okay, well, we've just had this giant battle and I want to destroy the world, then takes it, you know, finally does whatever it is that he was intended to do. Whatever his plans were, he starts to enact that, and the Straw Hats might follow him to like New Marineford sort of deal, and we actually don't go to Elbap like we think that we do. But I mean, the specifics of this are likely to be wrong. But I just have a general feeling that there's going to be 2 distinct parts we're going to feel by the end of Wano, where it's like Wano's like loss, and then something, and then our expectations are just blown out of the water afterwards.
For sure. Dritz, I haven't heard from you in a while, man. What's your anticipation for the end of Wano, and what's to come?
I just want Dragon.
Just want Dragon.
End of thought.
All right.
I just want Dragon. Dude, as someone who has almost no hope left for the series, dude, I just want to see what Dragon's gonna be used for.
All right, simple enough. JD, brother, what you got, man? What's your anticipation?
Wait a second. Hold on. Question. You said that Dritz suggested this question to you, right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I didn't do it for me, Morj. I'm selfless.
Look. When I sent them the questions, because I just wanted like, because me and Dritz are like friends outside of this like YouTube stuff. We all talk. Me, Jay, Dritz, other people. So I just sent them the questions, and I was just like, hey man, look over these questions. You think any of these are like kind of ridiculous, or if you have any other ones that you like? And he just sent back, all of these questions are, how did you quote it, Dritz? I need the exact quote.
Tough to answer on the spot.
No. You said something hilarious in the beginning. Hold on, I gotta bring it up because it's funny.
I probably did say something hilarious. I'm hilarious.
Yeah. He says, "Oh my, these questions are rigged for the drag down." And so Dritz just wants some dragon stuff. Hey man, I kind of agree with that. I've kind of been wondering like about like the revolutionaries in general. So maybe we do get some dragon stuff along with like some of like the answers for Sabo and stuff. I think that's something that I'm very interested in as well. JD, brother, what are your anticipations for the end of Wano? JD's not here. Oh, is he here? Okay.
Oh no, I'm here. My anticipation is that the 2 Yonkos go down this arc. And my anticipation is also that the Yonko system, I don't think it's destroyed. I think what's going to happen is I think there's going to be a massive power vacuum, and that's what's going to cause basically all the supernovas are going to be massive players in scrambling for territory, scrambling to rule the seas, because there's such a massive power imbalance out there. And obviously Blackbeard is going to be a major factor, because now Blackbeard is probably going to be more active than ever once Big Mom and Kaido are out of the picture. And that's probably going to lead to a conflict between Shanks and Blackbeard, as Shanks is kind of like the balancer of the two worlds when it comes to, you see him talking to the world government. You saw his interaction in Marineford, and, him actually interceding with Whitebeard, telling Ace not to go after Blackbeard. It seems like Shanks likes to play that role in the story. So I think it would be a nice way for Oda to kind of really start heading towards the end of One Piece by throwing everything into chaos with the two Yakos going down. And I don't think Luffy will beat Kaido directly. I think it's going to definitely be a team up, and I don't think Luffy is going to be exactly at that quote unquote Yako level. But I feel as though we need a very good moment for Kid, so I feel as though it should be Kid, Luffy, and maybe Zoro, who knows. But I feel like Kid needs to be now an extremely prominent figure within the world, not just as someone who's known for his heinous acts, but someone who's known as someone of their strength that is comparable to Luffy, and then Luffy can finally have that one pirate rival in a weird way. I would say kind of like Whitebeard, not even Whitebeard and Roger. I guess parallels, you should really go down that path. But the one heralded rival to challenge Luffy for the Pirate King that's within the Supernova class. So I would like to see that, if that could come into fruition. And then maybe some other stuff.
Yeah, man, just to add on to like Big Mom and Kaido falling, I don't know about you guys, but how do you guys feel about us getting some more Katakuri stuff? Now they've been,
I would love it. I would love to see it, but it's considering her territory, I think is without Katakuri being there, the territory is easy to be taken, and especially being the poneglyphs and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, if Big Mom's taking this gamble where there's an alliance, but maybe there's more underneath it that we don't know about until we figure out as the art progresses. But if she's gonna try and do something where she's gonna overtake Kaido and his territory or just take him down, you kind of need your big guns there. And Smoothie, I don't think is really the big person you need there.
More of my question is, if Big Mom and Kaido are completely out of the picture, the rest of the story, do you think Katakuri at that point just takes things over, or how do you guys think that plays out? Because I would like to think that there's Katakuri's not done in the story, unless you guys think that we're just never going to go back to his character at all.
I mean, it's a possibility he'll come back, definitely. I think it just depends on the moment. If we think Brulee's still there, and we believe that the mirror ability can extend as far as from Whole Cake Island to Wano, and it takes that moment where he just literally pops in, let's say in the banquet, and comes in as to help out Big Mom in the whole fight that's supposed to be going down. I think that'll be a great moment. But I mean, you have to look at it from both sides. Where if she doesn't have Katakuri there, territory's gonna be lost. But I really expect this is the downfall too for Big Mom, and I do not want to see her beyond Wano. I think she's had enough time in the story. Now it's time to start building up to the new generation.
For sure. Well, Laz, since you were already discussing, what are your thoughts post Wano? What would you like to see?
Well, I mean, going on what everyone's saying before, the two Yonkos following, of course, Kaido and Big Mom, from the combined efforts of Luffy, Kid, and Law, I do feel that since Sabaody, they're supposed to be built up for such a big moment in the story, and I feel this is going to be it with the takedown of with Kaido and possibly with Big Mom, or more characters being involved from the other supernovas. I would love to see the Blackbeard and Shanks fights being similar to the Blackbeard and Ace, which led to the events of Marineford. In this case, Shanks' demise leading to the final war and something grander to happen. And maybe finally going back to see what's going on with Dragon, with Im, seeing maybe some kind of coverage possibly of the Void Century, considering that we are in the arc or in the territory where the poneglyphs were crafted. I feel if we're going to get some kind of snippet of information, it'll be almost 1,000 chapters now, maybe get something of it instead of waiting until maybe a few more years down the line until we get it. So those are kind of what I would like to see.
For sure. And last but not least, Briggs, what are your expectations for the end of Wano?
I think I agree with the consensus that Kaido and Big Mom are going to be going down. Whether or not it's on this attack on Onigashima or a future attempt, I'm not sure. It's hard to imagine how they're going to be defeated because there are these invincible or super strong enemies. So it's hard. I'm very excited for how they're going to do it, because it's definitely going to need to be some sort of collaboration, and I love that. I think a lot of them are going to have to definitely get some type of power boost or get stronger in some way to do it, or show off some new skills, which is also very exciting. I think Law may also go down in this arc. It might be the end of his alliance with Luffy and kind of get the end of his overall character arc. And I think Kid may potentially become the rival. I agree with what JD said. I feel like Kid's going to start taking more of a prominent role going forward.
Yeah, he does have the betray factor in him too, and they made a point of it back in Punk Hazard, like, Pirate Alliances always end in betrayal, and I think that would really fit with Kid's character too, because I don't see him being like all buddy by the end of the arc. I think he's going to take after what's his, and especially everything that he's gone through and his crew's gone through and stuff. I think he wants to take now something for his as a positive out of it, and I think, whether it be betraying Luffy after, or maybe going for the kill for Kaido after, to have that kind of fame on him, I think that's a good possibility for him.
For sure. So we're pretty much all in the same kind of boat here. And the fact of the Yonko system kind of becoming something that becomes whether it's informally or formally abolished, kind of an end to that chapter of things. I think we're all in agreement to that. And yeah, man, as far as the rest of the questions, that is it, guys. I had an amazing time with all of my guests here. I just want to say thank you all for showing up. Morj, thank you especially for showing up. I know that you said you had a very busy week, so I appreciate you popping in when you did. Yeah,
no problem. This was the end of the day. Thanks.
For sure. for sure. Also, guys, just make sure that you guys go down in the description box. All of their channels will be there. Please go check out their content. Go look at what these guys are about. They all have amazing content. And that's why maybe not Dritz, but everyone else.
There you go.
Everyone else. There we go. Check everyone else out. Skip over Dritz, whatever. I'm gonna put his link there, but like, you don't have to go look at it. But yeah, man, go check out these guys' contents, man. And as always, it has been Anime Chat and Rap. I am Sensei Inc., and I will see you guys next video.